Hey everybody, this is Geneva of Geneva's Closet Talk Show. Please make sure you like and share this video and subscribe to Geneva's Closet if you haven't already done so right here on YouTube. And you can follow me on Facebook at Geneva's Closet. And you can email me at genevascloset22@gmail.com. Now, let's get into it. My
agent got a call and said Norman Lear is producing a new show called Good Times, and they'd like to see you. I said, what do you mean they'd like to see me? He said, well, he'd like you to come in and read with Miss Roll. It's going to be her show. That would be Esther Roll, the late Esther Roll, an incredible actress and a wonderful person. Said they'd like you to come in and read with Miss Roll. So I said, sure. Everybody knew who Norman Lear was at that time. I mean, I'd seen the first pilot episode of All in the Family, and I said, there's no way in the world they're going to put that on television. You know, I mean, Archie Bunker was in full mode, man, full bigot mode. And I said, there's no way they're going to let that stuff play on TV. Sure enough, it became a hit. And so when I got the call that Norman Lear was interested, I said, most definitely. I went in, I read with Miss Roll for Norman Lear. It was just the three of us in his office. And when we finished the reading, Norman looked at Esther, and Esther looked at me and looked at Norman and said, he'll do just fine. And thus I became JJ's daddy. Well, the reason being, Miss Roll had insisted that she have a husband on the show. She did not want it to be a perpetuation of the matriarchal black family. She said, no, I want a husband, and he's going to be a working husband, and he's going to be responsible, and that's the way I want to run this family. Everything worked except the jobs. James Evans, my character, was never able to find a full-time job.
Mr. Roll was an advocate for all of us, and I remember there was a week that we had, and I actually had really nothing much to say. It was like, hi, Mom, hi, Dad. I was in the bathroom, shut up, JJ. That's about it. The character had nothing. So I was very bored that week, and I said, this cannot go on. I can't sit here every week and just be this bored. So I asked Mom, I used to call her Mom, say, Mom, I was so bored this week. She said, what do you mean? I said, I just did nothing. I just sat there and I was bored. So she says, well, what do you want to do? I said, I need more to say. I need something, character. So she said, let me handle it. And we had a reading at the round table, and that week I had my 2 or 3 little lines, okay? And so Esther said at the end of the reading, she asked the producers and the writers, she says, I want to ask a question. And they said, sure, Esther, what is it? What is it? She said, I want to ask, are you ashamed of my daughter? And they said, no. And she said, then she went on to say, well, I think that we should do a little better with her. I think that we have my son, JJ, who has a lot to say, and my son, Michael, who has a lot to say. And I want my daughter to have a voice. And she said to me, and they said, oh, certainly. And so that afternoon, she said, you go up there and you tell them who Thelma is. Now, how can you develop a character? I mean, you know what I'm saying? You're telling the character to develop a character. So I knew who she was. So I ended up going up there and telling them what I'd like her to be, who I need her to be. And after that, the scripts came, the dialogue came, a voice became. And I give her all the credit for doing that. People don't really fight for people anymore like that. So she did. And that's how, she gave Thelma a voice.
Fortunately for me in my life, I had the opportunity to work on a television series entitled Good Times. I'm from Brooklyn, so I come from a family of 7 altogether on my mother's side. Then my father has another crew too, so we are a unit as well. Growing up in Brooklyn was fascinating for me. For the majority of my life, I've been friends with Brother Lawrence Fishburne since we were 9 years old, along with Haywood Nelson. Our mothers, Miss Maxine Nelson, Hattie Fishburne, and my mother, Lucille Carter, our mothers got along, so we got along. We all, at different times, were on Broadway and in Broadway theater productions as child actors. And along with that, Lawrence Fishburne and I, we went to high school, we graduated together. I began in a production in 1972 called The Me Nobody Knows. And in that production, I met some fantastic artists. Then I went into a play called Tough to Get Help. It was directed by Carl Reiner. And in that context, I played John Amos's grandson. So my comfort zone with him was already established. Then from that, I did a trilogy of works with a gentleman named Galt McDermott. He wrote a fantastic production on Broadway called Hair, but I did 3 consecutive productions with him. One entitled Dude, another one entitled Via Galactica, and another one entitled The Karl Marx Play. So Galt and I had a wonderful bond, and he wrote some of the most beautiful music I've ever experienced in musicals. While I was doing The Karl Marx Play, my manager at the time, Miss Selma Rubin, was negotiating for me to do Lorraine Hansberry's classic work, A Raisin in the Sun. It had been turned into a musical. Ernestine Jackson played my mother. Debbie Allen played my auntie. You had wonderful talents like Joe Morton. Our star was Virginia Capers, along with Helen Martin. Helen Martin and I would subsequently work together when she was on Good Times. She played Weeping Wanda. And she also was a great mentor for me. You know, she taught me how to protect myself.
Well, what would you do if the people give you a hard time at the school you're going to now?
Protect myself.
Different folks, same strokes.
Because I had worked with a lot of the actors that were on Good Times, it was a great transition for me. I felt extremely comfortable. The only problem I had for a couple of years was I was very lonely, because I was the only child on set.
I ain't no little boy, Daddy. I'm 12 years old.
You want to make 13?
And then the good energy of life sent me Janet Jackson. And from that time on, I wasn't alone anymore.
I'm literally the 3rd actor hired for the show after our beloved Esther Roll and John Amos. I had the job before I had the job. So that Robert Nemiroff is the husband and was the husband of Lorraine Hansberry. He contracted with Norman Lear to buy me out of my contract from that Broadway production.
It's John Rich, who had done, oh, heck darn it, the Brady Bunch, the Partridge Family, the Honeymooners, a veteran guy who's been around forever, and not a, what do we call an actor's director. He's a technical guy. He thinks of how can we get laughs, how can we do things. And I did the little dynamite thing in rehearsal one time, and he says, hey, I like that. And I didn't even do a big one. I said, you like what? He said, I like that dynamite thing. And he says, okay. And he set up an ISO cam on me. And he says, I want you to do it like this. And it was just an acting of how I actually did it, and later on. And I said, well, what do I do? Just do it like that? He says, yeah. And I went, John, that's a little silly. That's just to have somebody stand up and say dynamite in the middle of a show. He says, this thing is going to be big. And I said, really? He said, yes. And we started it like on the 2nd or 3rd show of the year, whatever. And it just took off. Now, Norman Lear hated it because it would interrupt the show. And Norman had a thing of like, let's have a show about whatever the issue was. Norman's a big issues-oriented guy. And so in the middle of every show, we'd have to, it's almost like Michael Buffer's thing of let's get ready to rumble. When he's building up to it, everybody knows what's coming and everybody's waiting for it. And that's what happened with that. And it became huge. And Norman, I think to this day, still regrets it, still would love to have it out, still would, me and Norman as friends, as people, we get along incredibly well. As talent, I don't think Norman Lear agrees with anything that I've ever done, anything that I've ever said. He doesn't understand why people laughed at me. He doesn't get it. He doesn't believe in it. He's not with it. It just was not his thing. And I think that Norman felt that his show was hijacked to his idea of what he wanted to do. And I think to this day, he still regrets that. And I think in terms of my talent, as a person, he likes me. As a talent, I don't think he thinks I have any talent.
What do you mean?
He thinks I have no talent. He doesn't get it. He doesn't understand why people are laughing. Just doesn't work for him. Just not what he does. And we get along great. I love Norman Lear. He's like my uncle. He's the greatest guy in the world, but he just doesn't believe in what I do.
despite the character's huge breakout.
He does. That's not the way Norman Lear works. That's not the way he works. Norman would rather have pulled the show and brought in somebody else and done the show he wanted to do. And a perfect example is we were talking about Family Matters. And I think Family Matters, which is Jaleel White and those guys, was going into its 8th year. And Norman was doing 704 Hauser Street, which is another one of his shows that he believes in every one of his shows, but he really believed in his show. And I was sitting in his office and said, hey, Norman, look at this. Because he hadn't had a show on the air in a little while. And I said, look at this. Family Matters is 8 years. Boy, I bet you wish you would have produced that show. And he looked at me straight. He said, I would never do a show like that, ever, ever. And that's the way Norman feels. He just has to have his issue stuff, and that's the way he works.
I came out there in about 73, and that was just after and during the explosion of black films. So there was quite a lot of activity at the time. My quarrel was with the quality of the activity. I went there from the stage to do a specific job, the Maud show. I've never run around Hollywood looking for work because I'm a sensitive person, and it has, for me, it brings back the auction block. My goal was not stardom. My goal was not Hollywood. My goal was a good actress.
I introduced the black father to this country. There never had been one in the whole of the country. And I risked my job by saying I won't do it unless you give me a husband for my children.
I will honestly say I don't remember ever speaking a word to Esther the whole time she was there. I think the same basically goes for John. I mean, we talked...
John Amos, who played your father, yeah.
We've talked more now, a little bit, but very, very little. We were never friends. We never talked. If you said at that time, call Esther and ask her about, I wouldn't even have her number. I couldn't have called John. I wouldn't have had his number. We were never friends. We never spoke to each other, only on the set. That's the only time. We never, ever did anything together. Barbara Broglione was our PR girl for Tandem. And at that time, Merv Griffin was doing a lot of shows about, hey, we have the whole cast of MASH, or we have the whole cast of Happy Days here, and whatever. And they said, hey, you know what? We should get Good Times on to do their thing. He says, I can't get these people to sit in a room together, let alone in a show together. I could not tell you what Esther did. I could not tell you what John did. I knew nothing about him. I know nothing about him now. I know more about the camera people in here.
And as I said, Jimmy was such a funny person that when we had a good comedic scene together, it was all, very often I'd have to look away because you could see me, I'm biting my lip to keep from laughing. And sure, we had creative differences, as all cast members do about every project they're involved in, but nothing that defeated the purpose of the show. All those years, 40 years of working with that family, to be reunited with them, it was a good feeling.
Who is Jimmy Walker? Well, I found the memoir that he wrote in 2012 called Dynamite, Good Times, Bad Times, Our Times. He speaks a little bit of his life. This particular part is called I'm from the Ghetto. I was about 10 years old when my father walked into our apartment in the Melrose Projects with his girlfriend. His wife, Lorena, my mother, was sitting in the living room with me and my younger sister, Beverly. See, this is what you're supposed to look like, my father said to my mother, proudly showing off the other woman. Well-dressed, light-skinned, with ruby red lips, her hair black with fashionably blonde streaks. You need to look like this, he told my mother. That's why you're not worth anything. My mom did not object. Instead, she offered the other woman a cup of coffee. When the visit was over, my father and his girlfriend, I never forgot her name, Faye from North Carolina, got in his 56 Buick, which we were never allowed to ride in, and drove off for a golfing vacation down south. I'm sure moving north to New York City seemed exciting and promising when my parents moved there after getting married in Selma. But by the time I was born in 1947 at New York Hospital in Manhattan, Dad was already daddy dearest. Even a child knows that you don't hurt people like he would hurt mother. Even a child like me knew that my father, James Carter Walker, the man whom I'm named after, I was a junior, was a horrid person, a real nasty guy. But there was little anyone could do to help. White people had money to get marriage counseling. Black folks just tried to survive. My first memory is of me being 3 or 4 years old and standing on a stool in the kitchen when we were living in Brooklyn before moving to the projects. My mother was boiling water on the stove to make some grits or boil some tea or something, and I was watching her. Then one of the legs of the stool broke. I rushed up to grab hold of something and poured the pot of hot water down on me. Man, I screamed and cried as the water scorched my left leg. I didn't go to a doctor. You see, white people had money for doctors. Black folks just tried to survive. My leg still bears the scars. My father, a man of small stature, only about 150 pounds, worked as a red-cap baggage handler at Penn Station. He must have experienced a demeaning feeling of servitude, of always having to smile and ask white folks, "Carry your bag, sir?" and gratefully reply, "Thank you, sir," especially for a man who grew up in Alabama. Red caps were not unlike the Pullman porters on the trains themselves, who were so anonymous that customers called every one of them George. They were not even worthy of individual names. Still, being a red cap was one of the better jobs available to black men at the time, with most of their income from tips. But the highlight of his life was when Count Basie or Duke Ellington bands came to the train station on their way in or out of town, and he handled their baggage. He would rave about them, how they dressed and how generous they were, giving him a huge $5 or $10 tip. Those were the few times I saw him happy, and those were among the few extended conversations I ever remember having with him. My mother had to fight to move us from Brooklyn and into the Melrose Projects in the South Bronx. The projects were a step up. They didn't take everybody. That's right, people. There was a waiting list to get into the ghetto. The neighborhood was mostly black and Puerto Rican, but with a couple of white families too. They probably got lost and just couldn't find their way out. My father was a red cap for more than 30 years, yet he did not support us. Mom had to pay the rent, $53 a month for the 3-bedroom apartment on the top floor of the 14-story housing project on 156th Street and Morris Avenue in one of the country's poorest ghettos. She worked 3 minimum wage jobs during the day as a school cafeteria aide and cleaning houses, and then the night shift as a printer. Despite all that labor, we were on and off the welfare rolls and taking government handouts of cheese and powdered milk. I did not know what welfare was, but I could tell from the looks on the faces of the other people waiting in line for government assistance that to be there was embarrassing. As a kid, I didn't know we were poor because everybody I knew was in the same boat. But I was always happy when those months would come along that I would not have to stand in that line holding my mother's hand. I knew even then that welfare was a train to nowhere. One day, when I was 9 years old, I ran out of my bedroom to find my father pounding my mother, his fist to her face, to her body, like a boxer. I didn't know what happened to instigate the situation. When she was on the floor, he stomped on her with his shoes. He was in a rage. She pulled herself up and ran out of the apartment. I watched as she reached the stairwell, and then he followed her down the stairs. He hit her in every step of the way, one punch breaking her jaw. He yelled at her as she cried and struggled to escape from him. My sister wanted to fight him, but she was too little, just 7 years old, so she ran to him and hung onto his leg, trying to stop him from going after my mother anymore. I was scared, not knowing what should I do. My mother was getting beat up. I ran after them as they headed down the stairs. When they reached the building entrance, he finally stopped, got into his car, and drove away. Then the police came. One of them was a white cop, and it was the first time I had ever heard a white person be nice to a black person. My mother was bleeding and in bad shape, and he felt for her. He wanted to help. He said, tell me where he is, and I will go get him. Tell me where he went. She wouldn't tell him. Then she went to the emergency room and they wired her jaw shut. Later, during another incident, my father broke her jaw again. Again, the police came. We're not going to file charges if you're not going to cooperate. One of the cops told my mother, we want you to tell the truth and not back out when we go to court. My mother was silent. I, too, said nothing. I wasn't shy, but I wasn't outgoing either. My sister did all the talking and explained everything that happened. My mom says she would not tell. I mean, back then, even when wives were pounded and paralyzed, women rarely left their men. But there was more. This is hard to believe, and it was hard for me to believe even then. But she loved him. That did not matter to me. I hated him. I wanted him gone. Though he never struck me or my sister, I dreaded every moment he was there. Thankfully, he was not home most of the time. Every now and then he would stay a day or so. Usually he came by on Sunday nights to watch the Ed Sullivan Show. If I knew I would never see him again, I would have been a happy child.
My little daughter was about 3 then, and we would take her every Tuesday and pick her up and take her to her doctors. And then when we come back, we'd stop at the soul food place in Baldwin Hills, and then then she would have her dinner, and then I'd drop her home. So this one Tuesday, I said to her, Mom, I'm going to the Bahamas to do a play, and I'll be back next Thursday. Okay, because I'm going for the weekend. I'll be back next Thursday. And I said, when I come back, I'm going to make you a pot of vegetables. And she said, okay. And then she looked at me and she said, and she grabbed my hand and she said, I want to thank you. And I said, Mom, what do you want to thank me for? She said, I want to thank you. You are a good daughter. I looked at her kind of strained. I said, oh, Mom, come on, I said, thank you, but I'm coming, back. And she said, no. She said, I know. She said, but I want to thank you and I love you. That I love you. And I said, I love you too. And then she looked at Brittany and said, I love you, little Brittany. And Brittany said, I love you too. And then I watched her walk to to her door, and she went in and waved, and we left. I went to the Bahamas and came back on the 17th, I think it was, because that was that Thursday. It was that Wednesday night. And I woke up that Thursday morning because I was going to go over to her house. I woke up that Thursday morning to the news that she had passed. I knew she was very ill, but I didn't know how ill. I just kind of got the feeling that something was not going to be correct when she grabbed my hand and told me what she said. That was a little, it's like sometimes they know they're going to go. And just in case they don't tell me, they told me. So that bothered me. But the day I got back is the day she passed.
Yeah.
But she knew, I guess she knew she would never see me again. She had a memorial.
She had a memorial. And did the whole cast show up for the memorial?
Whole cast showed up.
That's good. That's beautiful.
Come on, Jimmy, walk up.
Show black ass.
Hey! All right, Ralph ain't been the same since I brought that pistol.
All right, we got it. We'll take the shot. Who is it? Is it Kevin? Right here. Is it you, Kevin?
Yeah, on 3. 1. Okay, Kevin. 2, 3.
You got it. Thank you. Creator.
Yeah.
Creator of good times. Everyone,
Do you remember Ben Powers? You know, the guy who played Estelle, husband, Keith Anderson, on the show Good Times. Have you ever wondered what happened to him? And did you know that the work that his great-great-grandmother did is in the Smithsonian Museum and the National Museum of History? Well, let's get into it. Alton Aldebert Powers, 64, was a comedian, actor, composer, and artist, also known as Alton Ben Powers or Ben Powers, best known for his role as Thelma Evans' husband and football player Keith Anderson in the 1970s hit series Good Times, has died. Ben also played Moochie on the CBS TV hit Mickey Spillane's whatever, I know I'm saying that wrong, Mike Hammer, starring with Stacy Keach. Ben made numerous TV guest appearances on Give Me a Break, Flamingo Road, The Greatest American Hero, The New Odd Couple, Laverne and Shirley, and the PBS film Brother, Two Dragons. In addition to his TV work, Ben appeared in a number of films in the 1980s, including Cheech Chong's next movie, Things Are Tough All Over, and The Man Who Loved Women. Ben was born in the Jewish hospital in Brooklyn, New York on July 5th, 1950. He was raised with his siblings in the Providence, Rhode Island home of his deceased grandparents, his grandfather, Aldebert, in which he got his middle name from, and his grandmother, Elizabeth Thomas, and his aunts. As a young man, Ben was a choir member at the First Tabernacle in Providence, Rhode Island. He attended Hope High School and later Rhode Island College's Upward Bound program. Ben also loved to sketch and paint, attending classes at the Rhode Island School of Design before turning to acting. His great-great-grandmother was the former slave Harriet Powers, creator of the Bible quilt. Her quilts are part of the permanent collections at the Smithsonian Museum in Washington, D.C., the Museum of Fine Art in Boston, Massachusetts, and the National Museum of History in Washington, D.C. Ben began his acting career at the Trinity Repertory Theater in Providence, Rhode Island under Adrian Hall. A gifted pianist, composer, and singer, Ben incorporated his beautiful singing voice and impressions into his stand-up comedy routines. He was discovered in Providence, where he signed with a Hollywood agent and went on to perform at Playboy clubs in New York, Los Angeles, and Boston. His first TV appearances were on NBC TV series Rowan and Martin's Laugh In, where he was a regular and featured in skits with Robin Williams and Betty Davis, among others. Alton Ben Powers passed away on April 6, 2015 at the age of 64 in New Bedford, Massachusetts. Ben is survived by his mother, two sisters, Yvonne Brown and Maya Brewer, cousins, uncles, aunts, and a host of other families and friends, and he is preceded in death by his brother, Arnold Pete Salzman, and his sister, Sherry Lynn Powers. Ben was perhaps best loved and remembered for his performance on Good Times. He was a gifted artist who loved animals and delighted those around him with his wit and intellect. His kind and gentle temperament will be sorely missed. Now, what you hear me reading from is this obituary that I found online, and nowhere in there did you hear me mention anything about a wife and children. But then as I furthered my research, this is what I found. Powers married Julia Harper, born 1950 to 2012, on May 4th, 1981. They would have 4 daughters, twins, Malia Cameron Powers and Rayleigh, something like that, Cameron Powers, Augusta Valerie Powers, and Simone Emerson Powers. Powers died of liver cancer on April 6, 2015, at the age of 64 and was cremated. Now, when I read that, I said, Rich, I didn't see that on Wikipedia. It's not in his obituary, and it's not like, it could be that they wanted to hide that information, but then in that case, they wouldn't have put the information of his siblings and stuff, especially the ones that's still alive. So anyway, I furthered my research, and when I went and looked, I did see Malia Cameron Powers and Raleigh, whatever Cameron Powers, supposedly the twins, but in that, they were only connected to him. I didn't find them with anything else. I didn't find them really connected to a Julia Harper. Couldn't really find Julia Harper. Couldn't find the twins or the other daughters anywhere else when I did my research. So, I don't know. Now, a little information about his great-great-grandmother. Harriet Powers was born into slavery on October 29, 1837 in Clark County, Georgia, on a plantation owned by John and Nancy Lester. There are few details about her early life as a child and young adult. According to the 1870 census, she married Armstead Powers, a farmhand, in 1855 at the age of 18, and the couple had 9 children. The first known display of Powers quilts were in 1886 at a cotton fair in northeast Georgia. Jenny Smith, an artist and art teacher at the Lucy Cobb Institute in Athens, Georgia, approached Powers about purchasing the quote displayed, but Powers declined to sell it. The cotton quilt consisted of numerous pictorial squares depicting biblical scenes. They were constructed through piecework and were a mixture of hand and machine stitched. Smith and Powers remained in touch, and when Powers fell on hard times about 5 years later, she agreed to sell the quilt for $5, which is about $138 in 2020. At the time of the sale, Powers explained the imagery in the squares and Smith recorded the descriptions. Powers' quotes were displayed at regional art fairs, and she received commission for her work. Her quotes were known for their rich storytelling and considered remarkable examples of folk art and history. Only 2 of Powers' quilts survive today, the Bible quilt and the pictorial quilt. The Bible quilt is in the Smithsonian Institution National Museum of American History, and the pictorial quilt is in the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. Harriet Powers passed in 1910. Okay, let's go back a little bit. Remember when I read the obituary? In the obituary, I said that it did not mention Ben had a wife, grandchildren, or children. Also in the obituary, it mentioned his mother, but it did not give his mother's name. It did not mention his father's name. It said that he was raised by his grandparents and his aunts. And it also mentioned that he had 2 sisters still alive, Maya and Yvonne. And then it mentioned that he had a sister that passed and a brother that passed. Well, I found some information about his mother that his sister, Maya Brewer, put on her Facebook page, and it says, "My sister Yvonne Brown and I celebrate my mother, Eloise Christian Powers. Today, she would be 91 years old." Maya Brewer wrote this on November 11th, 2020. It says, "Today is my mother's birthday. I remember the wonderful stories she often shared with us while reminiscing about her life experiences. One of the stories she often told on her birthday still touches my heart. When she was young, her brothers Jack Norman and her sister Liz would take her to the Veterans Day parade. They told her that the parade was for her. She would smile sweetly, adding, 'I believed them, and I was happy about it.'" I found a picture of his sister Yvonne. I really didn't search to find any other information about her, but I did find his sister Maya. There's a lot of information out there about her. It says, a native of Rhode Island, Maya was raised with the strong influence of her grandparents, which is the same thing that Ben said, a foundation that helped shape the life she would live into. Then it also goes on to say that she has been teaching the practice of yoga to support health and well-being for decades. Maya founded the yoga retreat for women of color in 1998 to share the benefits of yoga and meditation with participants from around the world. Ben's mother, Eloise Thomas Powers, was born on November 11th, 1929, and it says that she studied fashion illustration at an early age. She graduated from high school in Brooklyn, New York. Eloise, a gifted visual arts, was awarded a scholarship to attend the Rhode Island School of Design. She loved to sing and was quite a singer and was placed in the church choir by evangelist H.B. Watkins. She married Alton Powers in 1945 and had 5 children, and she traveled extensively throughout Europe to Italy, France, and Spain, and often spoke of her visits to see the wonderful art and sculptures of the masters. In her later years, she returned to Rhode Island and was an active member of the First Tabernacle Church, serving as a gifted singer in the choir and as a trustee, and she was known to her family and friends as Wheezy and Mommy to her children. After reading all of this, I'm assuming that's why the kids had to be raised by their grandparents because of her career. Anyway, Eloise Christine Thomas Powers passed on July 7th, 2019 at the age of 89. Sadly, Ben's sister, Yvonne Claire Powers, just passed away on September 27th, 2023. She was 75 years old. And then the sister, Sherry Lynn Powers, who had already previously passed away, she passed on October 11th, 1976. She was 20 years old. And then his brother, Arnold Allen Pete Salzman, passed on February 25th, 1990. He was 35 years old. Ben's mom obituary says that she married Alton Powers in 1945 and had 5 children, so this must be Ben's father, and it sounds like he's a junior. As we reflect on the life and career of Alton Aldebert Powers, better known as Ben Powers, it's clear he was a talent gone too soon. From his memorable role as Keith Anderson on Good Times to his extensive work in television and beyond, his impact remains undeniable. While he may have stepped away from the spotlight in his later years, his performances continue to bring joy to fans of the show to this day.
I would like to know how you all feel about this situation.
Hey everybody, this is Geneva of Geneva's Closet Talk Show. Please make sure you like and share this video and subscribe to Geneva's Closet if you haven't already done so right here on YouTube. And you can follow me on Facebook at Geneva's Closet. And you can email me at genevascloset22@gmail.com. Now, let's get into the news. Hey, digital fam. Today, we're diving into the star-studded legacy of the legendary Johnny Brown, the man behind the iconic Nathan Bookman on Good Times. But hold on to your seats because we're not just talking about Johnny today. We're shining the spotlight on his incredible daughter, the one and only Sharon Brown. Now, before we get into Sharon, here's a little information about Johnny Brown. Born June 11th, 1937, Johnny started off as a nightclub promoter and performer. His early best role was a regular cast member of the television series Laugh In. Johnny has appeared in so many commercials and television shows like The Flip Wilson Show, Punky Brewster, The Jeffersons, Family Matters, Sister Sister, The Jamie Foxx Show, and more. So basically what happened was that Johnny met and married a woman by the name of June, aka June Brown, and they actually stayed married until Johnny's passing March 2nd, 2022 at the age of 84 years old. But before all that, they had two children, a son by the name of Johnny Brown Jr. and a daughter by the name of Sharon Catherine Brown, born September 11th, 1962. Here's a little information on June Brown and Johnny Brown Jr. I found an article where Sharon did an interview in the 80s when she was 20 years old, and she mentions her mom, and she says June was Lola Falana's personal secretary. And you know who Lola Falana is. She is the legendary singer, dancer, and actress. Sharon also mentions her brother, Johnny Brown Jr., and she says at the time, he was 12 years old when she did this interview, that he was considered a musical prodigy with a real gift as a drummer. Sharon has graced Hollywood with her talent, taking on roles in blockbuster hits like Introducing Dorothy Dandridge, Sister Act 2, What's Love Got to Do with It, Blues Brothers 2000, The Jeffersons, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, A Different World, and Good Times. Don't you remember that episode where Michael met the girl, fun girl on the CB, and when he met her, she had some type of handicap, she was in a wheelchair on crutches or something? Well, that was Sharon Brown. Sharon has also done Broadway, touring in musical productions like The Wiz, Rent, and she even played Effie in Dreamgirls, just to name a few. From soulful performances to dreamy musicals, Sharon has left an amazing mark on the big screen, carrying on the Brown legacy with style and grace. You probably thought I was done, but nope, there's more, because as I was doing my research, I came across this picture that looked familiar. And then it came to me, wait a minute, wasn't Sharon and this man on Shark Tank? And then no one took their deal, but then at the end, Damon John came to the back and decided to work with them. I said, well, then I know who he is. That's Billy Blanks Jr., the son of martial art fitness personality Billy Blanks Sr., born June 30th, 1976, currently age 48. Wait a minute, if Billy Blanks Jr. is 48, Sharon is 62. Oh, wow. That's a 14-year age difference. All right, then, whatever. Anyway, Sharon married Billy Blanks Jr., the son of Tybo fitness personality Billy Blanks. Sharon and Billy Jr. taught at fitness studios in Sherman Oaks, California, and developed a series of fitness videos. After being homeless in 2014, Billy Blanks Jr. pitched the program to Shark Tank, and they accepted the deal. Sharon Brown and Billy Blanks Jr. are currently divorced, but they do have an adopted son together by the name of Elijah. And there you have it, folks, the incredible journey of Sharon Brown carrying on the legacy of her legendary father, Johnny Brown, and making Hollywood magic. She is the daughter of Johnny Brown, the ex-wife of Billy Blanks Jr., and the ex-daughter-in-law of Billy Blanks. How cool is that? Anyway, people, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to Geneva's Closet for more Hollywood tales, and stay tuned for our next star-studded adventure. Bye.
I'm Catherine Brown. I'm playing Karen in Chick Flick.
And where have we seen you before?
Head Over Heels just a few weeks ago. Yeah, Head Over Heels on Broadway. And let's see, A Different World. I was Angela, the opera diva in A Different World, and introducing Dorothy Dandridge in Rent. I was the Seasons of Love soloist in Rent, and the show that I did right before Head Over Heels is as a blues singer in A Night with Janis Joplin.
What is your favorite chick flick?
Devil Wears Prada. I don't even have to think about it. That's all.
I would like to know how you all feel about this situation, and while you are letting me know, could you please like and share this video and subscribe to Geneva's Closet if you haven't already done so right here on YouTube. And you can follow me on Facebook at Geneva's Closet, and you can email me at genevascloset22@gmail.com. You all have a fabulous day, and I will talk to you later. Bye.
I ain't no social agency. You got to think of Sweet Daddy's image.
Now who don't remember Sweet Daddy Williams? You know Sweetness, who was played by Theodore Roosevelt Teddy Wilson, who actually made 7 appearances on the hit 70s TV show Good Times, 6 as Sweet Daddy and 1 as a club owner. Now let's get into the man behind the character. Theodore Roosevelt Teddy Wilson was born on December 10th, 1943 in Harlem, New York. He studied music and then later drama at Florida A&M University. He joined the Negro Ensemble Company and worked with the Arena Stage Repertory, which has some major black actors in it at the time. He debuted in a blaxploitation film called Cotton Comes to Harlem in 1970. And then around 1973, he eventually started working in television, starring in roles in pictures like MASH, Waltons, and as Earl Chambers in That's My Mama. And then in 1976, he signed with Norman Lear Production Company. And that's when he started getting roles in pictures like All in the Family, Sanford and Son, What's Happening, 13 Queens Boulevard, and his most memorable role as Marion Sweet Daddy Williams in Good Times. In 1974, during filming, Teddy met a lady by the name of Joanne Pringle. Joanne's name might not be familiar to many, but her face surely is recognizable. She is best known for her roles on the soap opera General Hospital and the TV series The White Shadow, The Waltons, and some may remember her as Tracy Taylor on That's My Mama. The two lovebirds eventually tied the knot, and 6 years later in 1980, they had twins. A girl named Nicole Naomi and a son named Robert Kenyatta. One interesting fact is that while Joanna was pregnant with the twins, she had a co-starring role on the 70s television show The White Shadow. When Joanne became pregnant, the show's writers adjusted to her major life change by having her real-life husband, Teddy, portray an estranged fictional spouse on the series. Well, that was nice. Teddy continued to work throughout his life, playing in pictures like Give Me a Break, The Golden Girls, Family Matters, Tales from the Crypt, and even with Mel Brooks' Life Stinks in 1991. But Wilson made his last on-screen appearance in Blood Out, a picture that he did in 1991, but came out in 1993. Sadly, on July 21st, 1991, Theodore Roosevelt Teddy Wilson died from complications from a stroke. Teddy had undergone open-heart surgery several years prior to his death. He died at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. He was 47 years old. Even though I only mentioned Teddy's 2 children, his twins that he had with Joanne, when looking him up, they actually say that he had 3 children, but they don't have information on his first child. I found an article in the 1991 Jet magazine that says actress Joanne Pringle will oversee $40,000 estate of late actor Theodore Wilson. And it says, actress Joanne Pringle, who has 2 minor children by the late actor Theodore Wilson, recently was named special administrator of his $40,000 estate, Jet has learned after examining court records.
Wilson was a familiar face on such television sitcoms as My Mama, Good Times, and The Red Fox Show. He left no will when he died recently at 47 of a stroke at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. Documents obtained from the Superior Court of California in Los Angeles indicate Miss Pringle, who most recently starred in the soap opera Generations and was a regular on The White Shadow, was named special administrator of the Wilson estate. Court records indicate Wilson's sole heir at law are 3 children of descendant: Robert Wilson, a minor; Nicole Wilson, a minor; and Theodore A. Wilson, an adult. Miss Pringle is identified as the mother of Robert 11 and Nicole 11. The value of Wilson's estate was put at $40,000, with personal property listed at $20,000 and an annual gross income from personal property at $20,000, records show. In petitioning the court, Ms. Pringle asked the court to waive the requirement of a bond due to the fact that the value of the estate is less than $60,000. As special administrator, Ms. Pringle asked the court to grant her complete control over the estate, including the authority to collect residual checks and collect outstanding receivables for the support of her children. Special administrator is requested due to the fact that the immediate action needs to be taken to protect the estate, Pringle stated. The documents also stated the descendant was a member of several unions: Screen Actors Guild, Screen Extras Guild, Writers, Directors, and Producers Guild. The unions require letters of administration to release funds which are needed by the minor children of descendant for their support. Furthermore, descendant had received several checks for residuals which remain uncashed due to the lack of letters. These funds are needed for the support and maintenance of the descendants' minor children, at least their share of such funds. The documents concluded descendant also has an adult child whose share would be held for his benefit. Descendant supported his minor children up to the date of his death. Even though in 1991, when Teddy passed, Joanna was left to take care of the twins on her own, which were only 9 years old, she must have did a pretty good job because the twins seemed to be okay. Her daughter, Nicole, which goes by Nikki Schlegel, because she's married, on Twitter, her bio says, Vice President, Universal Pictures, Digital Marketing, Duke alum, and former Duke cheerleader. Born in 1980, Nicole and her brother are 44 years old. She appears to be in the entertainment industry just like her mother and father, but just not acting like them. And she is married and has a child. Now, when it comes to Teddy and Joanne's twin son, Robert, I'm not sure exactly what he does, because what I'm getting from his social media is that he appears to be having some issues with a lady that he met in another country. I can't remember if it's Germany or the UK. She's an artist. And I believe that they had a child together, and he's not able to see his child. And that's the conflict that I see on social media with him. So hopefully he's able to get that all handled. Joanne Pringle was born on June 2nd, 1945. She is currently 79 years old. And kudos to her for being able to hold the fort down and raise her children as a single mom after the death of their father. Because we really did lose Theodore Roosevelt Teddy Wilson at such a young age.
I would like to know how you all feel about this situation, and while you are letting me know, could you please like and share? Now, let's get into the news.
Zara Frances Cully was born on January 26, 1892 in Worcester, Massachusetts, to her father, Ambrose Elander Cully, if I'm saying that correctly, and her mother, Nora Ann Cully. Now, it's said that her mother, Nora Ann Cully, had about 20 children, some who lived and passed away. I wasn't able to find all 20, but I did find about 10 or 11. The Cully family was a musical family. Her father was musical director at Zion AME Church in Worcester, Massachusetts. And she had a brother by the name of Wendell Cully, who was a jazz trumpeter who played for people like Cab Calloway, Duke Ellington, and Count Basie. She also had a brother, Raymond Cully, aka Ray Cully, who was a distinguished jazz drummer, arranger, singer, and songwriter. Her sister, Catherine, was a jazz singer in New York. Hannah was a pianist, and her sister, Agnes Cully, was a personal fashion designer to opera singer Marian Anderson and actress Betty Davis. It was known that the Cully family was a musical talented family. All the children played some sort of musical instrument: piano, drums, singing, poetry. Zara herself graduated from the Worcester School of Speech and Music. Zara's mother, Nora, who they say had given birth to about 20 children, some who lived were stillbirth and premature, had done so much damage to her young body and not given herself time to recuperate that in 1911, at the tender age of 39, Nora gave birth to her final child, a daughter who she named after her, Nora J. Cully. And just 5 days later, on November 9th, 1911, Nora died due to the complications of that childbirth just 1 month before her 40th birthday. Tragically, Zara's baby sister, Nora J. Cully, also died at an early age on April 1st, 1936. They say she was raped in New York and died from complications due to pneumonia. She was 24 years old. In a Jet magazine, March 16, 1978 interview, Zara says she was acting even as a tot. "I guess God gave me the talent," Cully once said. "As a little bitty girl, I had a photographic memory. I could take a poem of 22 verses, read it over, and get right up and recite it." After leaving Worcester and moving to Jacksonville, Florida, Zara began producing, writing, directing, and acting in numerous plays. For 15 years, she was a drama teacher at her own studio, as well as Edward Waters College, a historically black college founded in 1866 to educate freed slaves, but was disturbed by her encounters with Southern racism. "It was a traumatic experience," she once recalled. "I met with some violence and things, and I was always having conflicts because I couldn't take it. If I'd been a man, I guess I would have been lynched." Zara and one of her sisters, Hannah, both married a set of Brown brothers. Zara married James M. Brown Sr., and they were married from 1914 until his death in 1968. Together, Cully and Brown had 4 children. Zara moved to New York to be close to her sister Agnes. Agnes, who taught herself how to sew in Worcester, was hired by American opera singer Marian Anderson to be her main seamstress. And in the early 1950s, the two sisters were moving on up to Hollywood, where Zara became a regular performer at the Ebony Showcase Theater. By the time the role of Mother Jefferson had come up, Zara Cully had accumulated a long list of acting credentials spanning a half-century, including such movies as The Liberation of L.B. Jones, 1970, Brother John, 1971, the blaxploitation films Sugar Hill, 1974. She also did TV with The People Next Door, Run for Your Life, Mob Squad, Night Gallery, and All in the Family, which in 1974 her appearance originated the Mother Jefferson role, which she then carried over to the Jeffersons when that show spun off. Cully's first appearance as Mother Olivia Jefferson was in a guest appearance on the episode of All in the Family entitled Lionel's Engagement, which aired February 9th, 1974. At that time, Zara was 82 years old. The Jeffersons became a spinoff on January 18, 1975, but Cully was kept on as Mother Jefferson. At this time, she was 83 years old. Acclaimed as being one of the world's greatest elocutionists, in the 1940s in New York City, the 5'2", 125-pound actress did not achieve real fame until she secured the scene-stealing role of Olivia, Mother Jefferson, on the hit CBS sitcom, The Jeffersons. Whether taking a little nap or nip in the form of a Bloody Mary, which she claimed she drank for the vitamins, Cully added lightness to the show as she needled her daughter-in-law Louise, Wheezy Jefferson, spoiled her grandson Lionel, and proclaimed that her dry-cleaning mogul son George Jefferson could do no wrong. With her precise manner of speaking, her perfect hair, and her sheer elegance, Cully stole every scene that she was in. She was a sassy, classic, petite lady that could stand toe-to-toe with Archie Bunker, aka Carol O'Connor. Zara Cully always gave Wheezy a hard time. Looking at her character on The Jeffersons and looking at who she was a very sweet mother-in-law in real life. She was very supportive of her family. Isn't that nice? Here I am in my golden years in the home of my wonderful son and my handsome grandson and my daughter-in-law. During the first 17 episodes of the third season of The Jeffersons, Zara Cully was absent due to a severe case of pneumonia caused by a collapsed lung. Upon her recovery, she returned to the show. Her last credited performance was an appearance in the 9th episode of the 4th season entitled The Last Leaf, which aired November 12, 1977, just 3 months before her death. No special episode was created to center on her death, but it was addressed in the 2nd episode of the 5th season entitled Homecoming Part 1, which aired September 27, 1978, just 7 months after her actual death. Cully died at the Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles on February 28, 1978, from lung cancer at the age of 86. Services were held on March 2, 1978 at the Church of Christian Fellowship in Los Angeles. She was cremated and her remains are at Forest Lawn Memorial Park, Glendale in the Freedom Mausoleum. In attendance at her funeral were the cast and crew of The Jeffersons, including show producer Norman Lear. When Zara passed in February of 1978, 4 of her 2 children were still living. And according to the funeral program, Zara's son Emerson Brown sang, "You'll Never Walk Alone," and her granddaughter sang, "City Called Heaven" and "Right On King Jesus." In addition, Tom Bradley, the mayor of Los Angeles and a family friend, and Paul Benedict, who played George's English neighbor Harry Bentley on The Jeffersons, spoke in memory of Zara. Benedict was also one of the honorary pallbearers, which also included Sherman Hemsley and Damon Evans, the second actor to play Lionel Jefferson. And on June 9, 1978, just 4 months after Cully passed, she was awarded an NAACP Special Image Award. From the viewpoint of a child, Aunt Zara was very fascinating to me. She was very kind to us, said Moore, her great niece. She's a beautiful soul, and I just wish I knew her as an adult. I wish I had that time with her. Whether you remember her from a movie, some other TV show, or her sassy Spitfire character as Olivia Mother Jefferson on the CBS hit sitcom The Jeffersons, Zara Cully is very much appreciated. Thank you, Miss Cully.
I would like to know how you all feel about it. Now, let's get into the news.
Roxy Alberta Roker was born on August 28, 1929 in Miami, Florida, to her mother, Betsy Roker, who they say was a domestic worker from Georgia, and her father, Albert Roker, who they say was a porter from the Bahamas. Nevertheless, Roxy grew up in Brooklyn, New York. Not only did Roxy earn a drama degree from Howard University, but she was also a member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, and in addition, she studied at Shakespeare Institute in the UK. While holding an office job at NBC Fox 5 New York in the 1960s, she appeared in off-Broadway shows, including Jean Genet's, if I'm saying that correctly, play The Blacks. And in 1967-68, she was a host of Inside Bedford-Stuyvesant, if I said that correctly, a community-oriented show on WNEW-TV. After resigning from NBC and turning full-time to acting, Miss Roker appeared on stage with the Negro Ensemble Company in Oh Doo Doo, if I said that correctly, and Rosalie Pritchett. She won an Obie Award and was a 1974 Tony nominee for her performance as Maddie Williams in The River Niger. Miss Roker moved to California when the producer Norman Lear cast her in The Jeffersons, a 1975 spinoff of his series All in the Family. The new show moved Archie Bunker's black neighbors, the Jeffersons, from a blue-collar Queens neighborhood to a luxury apartment house in Manhattan. The Jeffersons, that aired for 10 years, 11 seasons from 1975 to 1985, was one of the longest running sitcoms in television history. The character played by Roxy Roker, Helen Willis, who was elegant but definitely didn't play any games, was a black woman with a white husband, Tom, played by Franklin Cover, television's first interracial couple. They were neighbors of George and Louise Jefferson, played by Sherman Hemsley and Isabel Sanford. Roxy also made other appearances on TV shows and movies, some such as Claudine, 1974, Roots, 1977, Fantasy Island, 1982, Amazon Women on the Moon, 1987, and A Different World, 1991. Now, this is usually the part of the video where I start talking about siblings, brothers, sisters, family members, but based on my research, I'm thinking that Roxy Roker was the only child of her mother, Betsy, and her father, Albert. As a matter of fact, when I did some research, I think she was about 6 years old, 6 or 11, if I'm not mistaken, by the time that they had separated. And I see the father on the census report, 39 years old, in Florida as single. So if Roxy does have siblings, it would probably be by her father that he had with another woman, because I think that he did remarry at some point, but do not quote me on that. But what I did find was some things that people had to say about her. Now, don't you remember Florence, who played as George and Wheezy's housekeeper on the Jeffersons, played by Marla Gibbs? Well, her and Isabel Sanford, who plays as Wheezy Jefferson, they did some interviews, and this is what they had to say about Roxy. They said that she was a loving woman from a great family. She put other people first. Fair lady with great friends. Anti-gossiper. She wasn't putting up with that gossip. Who could gauge people and their characters very well. They said she loved to throw parties, had the best party, had a nice big family, and had a very close relationship with her mother and her father. I seen an interview where she spoke of her father, the love that she had for him, and said that it was her father who taught her about sex. I also heard an interview where Marla Gibbs said that her and Roxy were very close. That was her road dog. They were like Thelma and Louise. She said every time Roxy came up with an idea, she would call her and they would be on their way. She said Roxy decided that she wanted to learn how to play tennis. So she called Marla, said, Marla, I want to learn how to play tennis. And then the next thing you know, they went and bought tennis outfits, had tennis rackets, running around the tennis court. They didn't know what they was doing. But if Roxy had an idea, she said she was willing to go in and have fun with it. Now, based on Roxy's career, family, and friends, you would assume that her life was going well. But based on an interview that her son did after her passing, it appears that while we were watching her on the Jeffersons as a black woman with a white husband and their marriage was going fabulous, in real life she was dealing with a cheating husband. In 1962, Roxy Roker married the love of her life, Seymour Kravis, and on May 26, 1964, they welcomed their son, Leonard Albert Kravis, aka Grammy Award-winning singer, songwriter, producer, and actor Lenny Kravitz. Lenny Kravitz said in an interview that when he was 20, he became aware of some of his father's secret lives and alerted his mother. I brought it into the light. It was quite intense and heartbreaking, but she knew about things all my life that I didn't know about. She would tell me stories about having me in her arms. It reminds me of the scene in Goodfellas. And she'd go to another woman's apartment and ring the bell. Tell him he has to come down. Stuff like that. Soon afterwards, his parents split up. Unlike her TV marriage, where she played the role of a happy wife, her actual marriage was nothing close to joyful. Lenny Kravitz's parents' union was marred with infidelity, and they went separate ways after more than 20 years. Their son revealed the details of their relationship through a memoir released in October 2020. When he was in his early 20s, Lenny overheard his father speaking to his mistress on the phone. An incident he later reported to his mother. The news broke her heart, but she also confessed to him that Cy had been unfaithful throughout their marriage. The woman in question was an employee at Cy's and Roxy's bank. Lenny's mother hired a private investigator who compiled evidence that led Cy to admit to cheating on his wife. The compilation included photographs and copies of plane tickets to where? To Paris. However, because of her bohemian upbringing, Roxy was hesitant about filing for divorce because it was forbidden. Lenny Kravitz describes in an interview overhearing his father on the phone saying, baby, I can't hide the last $50,000. He listened more and realized that his father was cheating on his mother and supporting his mistress with money from his mother. Kravitz writes, I went beyond anger. I wanted to kill him. Right then and there, I wanted him dead. Kravitz flew to Nassau in the Bahamas, where his mother's side of the family lived, and told her in person. Roxy confessed that this was far from the first time that Cy had cheated, but her upbringing told her that divorce was not an option. Instead, she hired a private detective who got incriminating pictures of Cy and turned up 2 round-trip tickets to Paris on Concorde, which he had used for him and his mistress. He was having an affair with a black woman in her early 20s who worked at their bank, and Cy confessed the truth. Then he hit Kravitz with the words that would haunt me for the rest of my life. You'll do it too. Lenny Kravitz admitted to having many women in his life, but the love of his life was Miss Lisa Bonet. He said that they had a very special relationship, which resulted in them eloping in 1987 and them having their daughter, Zoe Kravitz. Eventually, they separated and went their separate ways, but Lenny Kravitz elaborated on the effect that his father's cheating had on him. In one hand, he said, my father hurt my mother, Roxy, a lot, not physically, but emotionally through his affairs, which was hard to witness as a kid. I moved out of the home when I was 15 because of my dad. He continued, when your father tells you that you'll end up being unfaithful like him, that's something that can follow you around for a long time. I've had lots of issues when it came to being faithful to women, and I've had to fight it a lot in my life. Infidelity has been partly responsible for ending some of my relationships. In an interview with Oprah, Kravitz said that his father's comments messed me up. He said, my father loved my mother. My father just liked women. Lenny also revealed how he believed his dad was a tad bit jealous of his and Roxy's success, although he had success of his own. His wife and son ended up being that thing that he wanted to be. I could understand what it was with other women because he felt he needed to be the man, although he already was the man, and my mother treated him as the man. But in a superficial world, she was the star, and he was not. Lenny also said that from the beginning, his parents' marriage was rocky because his Jewish side of the family didn't even show up to their wedding. My dad was a sergeant, a Green Beret, the most hardcore above the Marines. He was a very hard man. He fought in Korea, as did his younger brother, Leonard, who I'm named after. Cy came home alive. Leonard did not. He got blamed for that. His parents. Just the fact that his little brother followed him to war. That blame hadn't eased by the time Cy married Lenny's mother. There wasn't a white person at the wedding, Kravitz says. And I had a great relationship with my Jewish relatives, and I knew nothing of this until I got older. FYI, Lenny Kravitz's dad, Cy Kravitz, joined NBC and worked in the video department of the network's news broadcast, and it says that he was responsible for developing and supervising the entire process for several years. Lenny Kravitz became a music superstar in the late 80s, and by the time his mother fell gravely ill after battling breast cancer in 1995, he was on an international tour. Still, Kravitz pressed pause on his career and flew to Los Angeles to be next to his mom as quickly as he could. Since Kravitz didn't have a home in the city at the time, he was staying with music producer Rick Rubin. I got off a plane from Tokyo and I went straight to the hospital. My mother was alive, but she was slipping. Lenny thought he had enough time and went back to Rubin's home from the hospital to take a shower and have some food. However, as he was arriving at the house, the phone rang and he got the bad news. Roxy, his mom, had passed away at the age of 66. As Kravitz stood at the bottom of the stairs after ending the call, Johnny Cash and his wife June, who were also staying with Rubin, were descending and they noticed something was wrong. They could see I looked disturbed. Johnny said, "What's going on?" And I said, "My mom just died." In response, Johnny and June approached Lenny and embraced him, even though they weren't lifelong friends and only knew each other for a short time, which moved the rock star to the core. They were really beautiful and loving and supportive. It's not like we were great friends, but they chose to do the beautiful thing and to treat me like family at that moment. That moment is so ingrained in Kravitz's memory that he incorporated in a song more than 2 decades later in his 2018 album, Raised Vibration. It obviously is something that impacted me and has been sitting within my spirit. They were beautiful, real people, and I guess that might have been the last time that I was consoled in that way. Although Lenny Kravitz's only daughter Zoe was still a child when her grandmother passed away, she is conscious of the importance Roker had in the entertainment industry. When I got older, I realized, oh, that's why it was a big deal that my grandmother was married to a white man on the show. I had mixed parents, so I didn't see it as a big deal. Then when I was educated about what the world was like, I realized this is a huge deal. It was brave of her to go there. I don't think her intention was to shake things up. It was actually her truth. She was married to a white man.
I would like to know how you all feel about this situation, and while you are letting me know, could you please like and share this video and subscribe to Genevas Closet if you haven't already done so right here on YouTube. And you can follow me on Facebook at Genevas Closet, and you can email me at genevascloset22@gmail.com. You all have a fabulous day, and I will talk to you later. Bye.
Jimmy hats like Grandma gave you.
Don't we just love her? Helen Dorothy Martin was born on July 23rd, 1909 in St. Louis, Missouri, but just a short while after her family moved to Nashville, Tennessee. During my research, I found some information that sums up Helen's life in her own words. So check this out. This is a 1988 article from Ebony, and it says, as Helen Martin playfully glides onto the set of NBC series 227, the entire studio audience erupts in laughter. This is just a prelude. Before long, she will have her co-stars laughing wildly with a series of dry one-liners. She provides so many laughs that it's difficult to realize there is a serious side to her. But indeed there is. She is extremely serious about her acting. She always has been. Unlike many actors, she says there was no idols or role models for her to emulate in the 1920s. Some people want to be doctors or psychiatrists, she says. All I knew is that I wanted to be in show business. Always did. Growing up in Nashville in the 1920s, there was anything but encouragement for a career as precarious as show business. When I was growing up, wanting to be in show business was like working for the devil. Some people still look down on it. Negative attitudes didn't deter her from dreaming of taking graceful bows while receiving a standing ovation. As an only child from a family of musicians, she was expected to be a concert pianist. After briefly attending Fisk University and Tennessee State University, she directed a 12-piece orchestra for a couple of years. When that job phased out, she did domestic work long enough to save $90 and proudly proclaimed to her employer that she was headed for Chicago to be in show business. In Chicago, her dream of show business success was temporarily shelved by the harsh realities of the Great Depression. She did more domestic work and took a job in a chemical factory before joining a federally sponsored theater project. She performed briefly in a play called The Great White Fog. Her husband, whom she married in 1939, urged her to go to New York if she was serious about show business. Broadway didn't immediately embrace her with open arms. She worked more odd jobs while performing in small productions. In 1940, she and a number of other black performers formed a group called the American Negro Theater. A small percentage of each person's acting wages were used to keep the group afloat. We had classes in body movement, speech, and voice, she says. The group disbanded several years later. Miss Martin's first major stage break came in 1942, and it came in a big way. I read where Orson Welles was coming to New York to direct Native Son. He had just finished Citizen Kane. He and John Houseman were partners at the time. She decided to take a chance and audition for the play despite her lack of Broadway credits. There was a line all the way around the building, she recalls. I was so scared, I was letting people by me. But somehow she summoned enough courage to go in and read. She impressed Wells enough to be cast in what turned out to be a hit Broadway production. That was my first debut. My first director was Orson Welles, and my second was Ella Karzan in Deep Are the Roots in 1945. I went to London in that one. Between those jobs, limited opportunities in the theater forced Miss Martin back to a variety of odd jobs. I worked at Western Union, in box factories, in private family homes, operated elevators in hotels, and served dinner parties. I always worked at something because I had to live. I have never been one of those people who was an actress only, eating peanut butter sandwiches the whole week. My telephone has never been cut off, and I've always paid my rent. I knew I had to make sacrifices. While she was always aware of racism, Miss Martin says she thought about it more in the late 1940s when a white co-star of a play she was doing was invited to Hollywood to try the movies. I had always been told what a fine actress I was. And if this society that we live in wasn't so prejudiced, it would be the way I knew it should be, with her also heading to Hollywood. And I was never one of those Negroes who wanted to be white. Hollywood did not pursue her or other black actresses simply because of their skin color, she says. I said to myself, oh well, there's nothing I can do about that. So I'm just going to have to do the very best I can, she recalls. That's what I've been doing, the best I can. I've done 10 Broadway shows. I've done 10 of summer stock. I've toured Europe 2 or 3 times. I've done radio, television, and several movies. She performed in such Broadway hits as Pearly, The Blacks, Raisin in the Sun, and Pearly Victorious. Her film credits include The Anderson Tapes, A Hero Ain't Nothing But a Sandwich in Hollywood Shuffle. She did guest shots on numerous primetime shows, appeared in Roots and the television movie Dummy, and was a regular on Baby, I'm Back. Marla Gibbs, who is producer and star of 227, specifically asked for Miss Martin to play the saucy role of her nosy neighbor Pearl Shea. Her unwavering devotion to acting did not interfere with her marriage, Miss Martin says. My husband was always proud of me. He died after they were married for 3 years. They had no children, and she never remarried. Looking back on her career of nearly 50 years, she says adversity was always present, but so was determination. I'm what you might call dedicated. When you do what you want to do, you're happy. I've done other kinds of work that I hated. I did war jobs. I worked in the post office during the war, and I hated it. I worked in the garment district, pressing clothes, and hated it. I always loved acting and show business. Somehow, a show would come up eventually. Miss Martin, aware that she is more fortunate than many others who have chosen careers under the bright lights. Still, she says, racism gets to me even now. I'm still having to deal with it. Nothing has changed. It's just in Technicolor now. Racism will always exist, she suspects, but it never has and never will get in the way of her acting. All I know is that I love it, she says.
What does he look like?
He's fine. Woo. Bye, Miss Clark.
Bye.
I know what you're thinking.
At your age? Shame on you, Pearl.
He's my favorite director. He was my first director.
He was?
Orson Welles, who did Native Son.
On Broadway?
Written in 1942, written by Richard Wright.
Uh-huh.
I belonged to a group that I helped to organize called the American Negro Theater.
Uh-huh.
And I was one of the original members of that. That's when we had Ozzie Davis and Reuben, all of them came out of that group.
Was black?
We just didn't say no black theater. It just said show business.
Show business theater, right.
That's right. Now, uptown...
Why do they carry on today so much?
Oh, that has to do with a lot of color folks who want to identify themselves, you know, I mean, please. We're just human beings.
Right, right.
I never was into that sort of thing.
Right.
People are people, you know, so we're black, wherever you look and see we're black. Well, anyhow, I just always wanted to be in show business.
That's it.
All my life, I didn't look up and see somebody in the mood and want to do it. It's inside here.
So you didn't study, really?
Not really. When I was little, I used to go up in the attic and drag clothes down, you know, and I'd put them on and stand in front of the mirror and act like I was fainting. And I don't know how this came about, but I don't know how I instinctively knew you had to have something on your face. So I rubbed talcum powder on my face, and I was acting, always acting.
Always acting?
It's in here. I was born wanting to be in show business, in some part of the entertainment world.
Right.
I was born wanting to do that.
Dramatics, funny, everything.
I never thought I was funny. In fact, I don't think I'm funny. You know, I don't.
That's what's so good about you. Yeah, that's what's so good about comedy. Yeah, but you came out to California after you did all these wonderful
in '73, I came out here to do a pilot with Rosie Greer.
Rosie Greer.
That's what I came out here.
Really?
In '73 to do a pilot with Rosie Greer. I was supposed to play his grandmother or something, and I forget the name of the play. Anyway, so my agent at that time, she's got Ernestine McClendon.
Right.
So I was getting ready to go back to New York. She says, "Oh, why are you going?" I said, "Well, the income tax people are out there. I got to go back today." But she said, "That's okay. Don't worry about it." She said, "Why don't you stay out here and see what happens?" So I stayed out here, and I got in good times.
But you
would ask the role, and then
came to Hollywood. You got in these wonderful series like 227.
That's right.
Tell me about 227. How did you get that?
Well,
that's a good show.
That was created by Christine Houston, who lived in New York.
Right.
I lived in Chicago.
Right.
And her address there was 227 Wabash, and she wrote a play about it.
Right.
And they brought it down and gave it to Marla, because Marla's theater was on Vermont then.
Right.
Crossroads.
Right.
And so Marla did it as a play. Now the actor in the window was a blind man. And so she changed that. She told Norman, she made a video of it, and told Norman that she wanted me for the role of Pearl Shea, who sat in the window. That's how I got sitting in the window.
Pearl Shea. I love that.
I said, I want Helen Martin because I want a senior who doesn't care what you think. They do what they want to do and say what they want to say.
Yes.
So they said, fine. So I called her up and said, would you like to do the show? And she said, yes. So she came, and she got the most ratings, more than any of us.
No, none of us are employed right now.
You're not employed right now? You're not doing anything right now?
No.
But you do special appearances. You're going out to get awards right now. You're going.
But I mean, that's just
you're not
part of. I'm not making a living. I'm not working.
Not anymore. For a while.
Well, it isn't anymore. It's just no jobs. I don't have any job. But everything is white now. You understand?
Everything is white? I disagree with you there. I really do. No, it's not everything white.
It isn't?
No, I don't think so. What do you mean by everything is white?
It's a racist type of thing, you know.
You believe that?
Of course.
I don't. I really don't. I
okay.
Can't, because you've been working all these years.
That doesn't have anything to do with it. It's certain parts. Yes. I don't get the roles.
I see.
So I'm a character actress also.
Right.
Comedian, character, and satire.
Right.
I just get what I can. You know, it just so happened that 227, I had done a lot of shows before 227.
You certainly have.
But I only worked like a day here, 2 days there.
Right.
227 was on a series that I've ever been on where I worked every day. That's what I'm talking about.
Pearly. Tell me about Pearly. And you did Roots. You did Roots. It was a big hit.
Well, that was a couple of days' work.
Don't see, you're throwing me out a couple of days' work. There.
No, the part of it is you said like I work so much. You understand?
Well, you're a working actress. So you're a character working actress all the time.
Okay.
That's what that's what I'm trying to say.
All right. Oh, this color guy was sitting on the bus, a streetcar or something, and he was sitting there, and somebody touched him on the shoulder. Touched him on the shoulder again. He said, "What do you want?" And the lady says, "Excuse me, mister, but there's a roach on your collar." He said, "Leave it there. Everything us colors folks get, you white folks want it." I have never struggled.
Never struggled?
No. So, I've never complained. You never complain, never explain.
Helen?
When I lived in New York, if I wasn't working in show business, I got me a job doing something else.
So you just kept the living?
I worked. I had to work because wasn't nobody taking care of me but me. My husband was dead. I didn't have no way. but I knew how to make a living.
Right.
I worked in Western Union, I worked in the post office, I worked at the Manhattan Maid Service where I served dinner parties, I run hotel work, I run an elevator.
You go to church every
Oh
Sunday.
yes, I go to Little Country Church of Hollywood.
Country Church?
Church of Hollywood.
Tell
It's
me
right
about
on
that.
Argyle.
I love that.
I used to live on Beechwood.
Right.
Well, I've always gone to church. I was raised in the church. Sunday school, church, you know, all my life. And in fact, I joined church when I was 12 years old. I was baptized and everything. So anyhow, I used to pass by this little church. It was in 1976 on the bus. I was going way downtown to 6th Street to some church way down there. And I say, it had a big sign out there, country church. I said, I'm going to go in there one of these days and see what happened. I went in there and I've been going there ever since.
Ever since?
I read poetry on special occasions. And I love poetry. I read out of Helen Steiner Rice's poetry.
So Helen Martin loves poetry. You love good music.
I've always liked poetry.
Very happy. You have a man in your life? You have a husband or children?
No, my husband's
dead.
Been dead.
Yes. You have children, do you?
No. I had my daughter passed away several months ago.
So Helen Martin's
stepdaughter.
But Red Fox and you are very good friends. Very good
Oh
friends.
yeah.
Tell me about Red.
I was with him in his first movie, Cotton Come to Harlem.
Right. Tell me about Red.
Well, I knew him in clubs and things that
Years
he did
ago.
before that.
Right.
Yeah, very nice guy. He was very
great.
nice. Very nice. And he would always reach back and give his friends work, you know, that had
Did he
worked
really?
with him before. He was a nice guy.
What does that mean? I don't know. It's it's Jewish, I think. You know, I'm part Jewish. I'm a black Jew.
Oh, you're black Jew.
You know, they did, when I lived in New York, in the Bronx, there used to be some black Jews living. And I used to gather clothes and things to take to them. And they decided to go to Jerusalem, their home. But they weren't accepted. That made them go off.
They went off?
They weren't accepted, but they stayed over there. And I think they still... Abraham, you see, was black.
Abraham who?
In the Bible.
Oh, really?
Martin. Not nice to me.
No. Damn, the 227 set was
I
no
shouldn't talk
joke.
about her like that, but she was mean to me.
Really?
But she leaned out the window one day. We were doing the thing, and I was doing my thing. And we had a little lull in the action, you know, a little 5-minute break. And she leaned out the window. She said, you think you the star of this, don't you? I turned around. I said, yeah, you old bitch, I am. That's about 3 years in. That's when I knew I had made it. Because I was like, you're going to talk to me any old damn way. She went, well. But, and then when she died, she was in the hospital, and they took her out and took her home, and she had a young gay white boy taking care of her. I forgot his name, but they were together for years. He took care of her to at the end of, and she was in the bed, and the doctor came in. He said, "Oh, you're gonna be all right." She said she was smoking a joint. She said, "I'm gonna be all right." He said, "Yeah." She said, "Why the fuck am I in here?" Ellen Martin.
Here's a little bit more information about Miss Helen Martin. She was one of the first African-American actresses to have a major role on Broadway, and she was nominated for an NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Motion Picture for her role in Hollywood Shuffle in 1987. It says that Helen was born in St. Louis, Missouri, but just a short while after, she went to Nashville, Tennessee, and that's where she was raised and went to school. And that probably had a lot to do with her mother, Amanda, and her father, William Martin, being from Nashville, Tennessee. Helen's mom, Amanda Frankie Fox, being her maiden name, Martin being her married name, was born in 1884, and sadly, she passed away in 1928 at the age of 43, and at the time, Helen was only 19 years old. I know that had to have been devastating for Helen, especially considering what the article said. She was the only child. So she had no siblings. It was just her, her mom, and her dad. So I'm hoping that at least her and her dad had a good relationship. Now don't you see why I said that article that I read would pretty much explain everything? Because it really gave good details. Because in most videos or things that I have seen about Helen Martin, it said that she wasn't married. But based on the article, she actually got married in 1939, which means that she would have been 30 years old. And then they said, sadly, her husband passed away 3 years later, which would have made her 33 years old. So he had to passed away in, about 1942? We heard in the article that Helen and her husband never had children, and she never had children after that because she never remarried. But we did hear in that interview with, I think the man's name was Alan, that when he asked her about her husband, she said that her husband had passed away, but she did have a stepdaughter that had just passed away. I think she said some months earlier. So I don't know how this was her stepdaughter, but biologically she didn't have any kids, but she felt like that she did at least have a stepdaughter. In one of her interviews, Helen even mentioned she was a black Jew. I found that very interesting, and I was really wishing that the man would have asked her more questions about that, but whatever. I think one of my biggest takeaways from doing this video on Helen Martin is that she was definitely a hard worker. Like she said, she would work any type of job, do whatever she had to do. She always made sure her bills was paid, her phone was on. She was never going to go without. She was never going to struggle. She had been working, acting, and on Broadway for 60 years. She took whatever type of roles that she could get. She said that she never complained, but even with all of that being said, I don't think that she felt like she was still getting the roles that she knew that she could get. I feel like that Helen really would have liked to been on more series for people to believe in her acting more than probably just little roles and movies and all of those things, which was good. I mean, she appreciated it, but just like she said, those might be for a few days or a few weeks or for a few months, but it was nothing like on 227 when she was on the series and she was constantly making money. So you can work for, a few months or a few days or a few weeks or whatever, and then after that you're unemployed. Then you're not making any money. So that just made me think of the actresses or entertainers, period, musicians, all of that. One minute we see them, they're out there, they're doing their thing. Then the next minute we don't see them anymore. That's because technically they're unemployed and they're not making any money. And that can be a sad thing, especially for someone like Helen Martin, who had worked as long as she had worked and done as much as she had done. And that's why I think she was a little irritated. She seemed irritated when she was going back and forth with that man, Alan, who seemed to not understand what she was talking about. Helen Martin played a variety of grandmothers in films, plus she played memorable roles in pictures like Hollywood Shuffle, Don't Be a Menace to South Central, Mama Dow and Bullworth, The Wayans Brothers, I Got the Hookup, The Jamie Foxx Show, Beverly Hills Cops 3, House Party 2, Doc Hollywood, A Rage in Harlem, and so many more. Helen made 2 appearances on the Conan show, and her final appearance, if I'm not mistaken, was January 17th, 1996. And I believe that what she was doing on those shows was rebranding herself. I think she had realized that she was known as the weed-smoking old grandmother, and that was the way to go as far as trying to get her in films. And I personally think it was hilarious. So if you haven't checked that out, make sure you do so, and let me know what you think in the comments. Helen's last film was Something to Talk About that came out in 2000, but sadly she wouldn't live to see it because on March 25th, 2000, Helen died from a heart attack in Monterey, California. She was cremated and her ashes were given to family and friends. She was 90 years old.
Open my gift. Oh, his and her towel. Just hers. Thank you, Pearl. If it lasts, then I'll give you his. The kid said, Grandma, will you tell us a story? She says, why, yes. Once upon a time, there were 3 bears. They said, oh, no, we've heard that one. Tell us about the time you was a whore in Chicago.
Huxtable, Cliff Huxtable's father on the hit TV show, The Cosby Show, led a secret life. And most people say we should keep it that way. But I say, in today's time, Earl would have been happy to live the life that he ultimately wanted to live and didn't have to move to Norway to live his secret life, where he said he felt most appreciated. Well, if you didn't know, you gonna learn today. Now check this out. George Earl Hyman was born on October 11th, 1926 in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. His parents, both school teachers, moved their 4 children to the north to be educated. I was the only black boy in school. The pressure was awful. I had nowhere to hide. I'm glad I managed to be the best. I had a photographic memory. I read things twice, and I knew it. Hyman's father, Zachariah Hyman, became assistant to the city parks commissioner and designed the landscaping in Prospect Park and at the planetarium. It's very moving today for me to go back and look at those trees. Then the Depression came along and he was fired. He thought it was because he was black. I'm sure he was right, but it hurt him. He became bitter about it, which is worse than being hurt. And he kind of gave up. Down times came and we moved to poorer and poorer houses and apartments. But it pushed me straight into theater. On his 13th birthday, Hyman took his girlfriend to see his first professional play, Ibsen's Ghost. I rushed to the library the next day and read all of Ibsen's plays. My interest in Norway started there. I went to the theater every week. 25 cents it cost to sit in the second balcony. He attached himself to Mercedes Gilbert Black, who played in The Green Pastures. I haunted her house. She sort of adopted me, gave me pointers. There were no jobs for black actors then. Then a radio producer called the actress one day while Hyman was there. He needed someone to play George Washington Carver as a boy. Black told Hyman, then 16, to speak, pitching his voice high to sound like he was 7. He got the job, but the producer was startled when in walked a 6'4" teenager. Hyman added an E to his first name, Earl, and in 1943 was offered a walk-on part in Run Little Chillum on Broadway. Hyman decided to stay in show business after appearing in the American Negro Theater's Anna Lucasta, if I'm saying that correctly. But this time he came down to Broadway to stay and stay, he says. Driving Miss Daisy will be made into a movie, but Hyman doesn't think he'll get the role because he hasn't done many feature films. I really wish I had done more movies. He was offered the role in Something of Value starring Rock Hudson and Sidney Poitier, but I turned it down. I thought I couldn't do it well. Sometimes in this business, it isn't too good to be too honest with yourself. I turned down a few other roles in movies because I love the theater so much. What snobs we theater actors can be. Hyman was a member of the American Shakespeare Theater, beginning with his first season in 1955, and played the role of Othello in the 1957 season. And in December 1958, he came to London to play the leading role in Moon on a Rainbow Shawl. And in 1959, he appeared in the first London production of A Raisin in the Sun. A member of the Actors Studio, Hyman appeared throughout his career in productions in both the United States and Norway, where he also owned property. And in 1965, he won a Theater World Award, and in 1988, he was awarded the St. Olav's Medal for his work in Norwegian theater. In addition to his stage work, Hyman appeared in various television and film roles. But did you know that he played the voice for Panthro on the animated television series Thundercats from 1985 to 1989? And one of his most well-known roles was that of Russell Huxtable in The Cosby Show, which earned him an Emmy Award nomination in 1986. From 1984 to 1992, he played the father of lead character Cliff Huxtable, played by actor Bill Cosby, despite only being 11 years older than Cosby. Jordan Straw, a representative for the Actors Fund, says that George Allen Hyman died Friday, November 17, 2017, at the Lillian Booth Actors Home in Englewood, New Jersey. He was 91 years old. In June of 2020, the Folger Shakespeare Library, a private research library in Washington, D.C., acquired Hyman's personal items and memorabilia to be displayed as the Earl Hyman Collection. When the Folger Shakespeare Library spoke on the Earl Hyman Collection, they said, "The Earl Hyman Collection is an incredible gathering of family memorabilia, photographs, posters, objects, awards, costume design, scripts, personal correspondence, journals, props, newspaper clippings, and more." Mr. Hyman lived with his partner of 50 years, a Norwegian seaman named Rolf Cerns, and many photos and correspondence appear to relate to their relationship. Mr. Hyman described this as a passionate friendship, calling Rolf his partner. I found an article on elisaroll.com that says, Rolf Sørens was born June 29, 1926 in Haugesund, Norway. He eventually got a job as a steward on a yacht that sailed between New York and Florida. Earl Hyman and Rolf met in 1954. We met at a party in Manhattan. We were young and poor and found out we were going to share an apartment. And we still do. Life with Earl has been wonderful, but also a roller coaster. Actors are a rare breed of their own, and it's not far from top to bottom. Norway is my fatherland, but my heart belongs to New York. Rolf told that in an interview with the young journalism student Margaret Havik in 2000. 3 years after they moved in together, Earl went to Norway for the first time, and in 1963, he had enormous success with his interpretation of Othello in Bergen. In sounding Norwegian, he and his co-star attracted 50 full houses and created Shakespeare fever in the city. Othello was to become a favorite role for Earl, and he would also later repeat it with Fylsted as the opposite. The two had also caused controversy in the film The African from 1966. At the time, many people reacted to the love depicted between a black man and a white woman. When Fylsted spoke on Earl's relationship, she said, "First and foremost, I think of them as a beautiful story. They lived together their entire adult lives as a harmonious couple." Fylsted told this when she was interviewed in 2017. Earl frequently traveled back and forth from New York to Norway. He said, "I've bought a cabin back home, found me a wonderful place in Scandinavia, and will spend 2 or 3 months there this summer." Scandinavia was precisely the place where Rolf had also spent many summers as a child, so it was hardly chosen by chance. The two shared an apartment on the 33rd floor in Manhattan with the cat Tuss Tuss that they brought back with them. Rolf worked the last 35 years of his professional life at KO Steakhouse in Greenwich Village. The couple also featured in Good Evening Norway on TV2 in 2000. "I could never live without Rolf. He is the best I could get," Earl stated. Rolf died January 14, 2004 in the United States. He himself had wanted to be cremated in Norway. Earl was quietly with his loved one to his final resting place in front of those present, again in fluent Norwegian. He also had the strength to read Psalms 91 during the ceremony ahead of the urn lowering. Almost 50 years of cohabitation were over. When Earl died on November 17, 2017, in the obituary in the New York Times, it was mostly about his career and that he broke racial barriers as an actor. It ends with a sentence that Earl never married and died alone without any descendants. Rolf was not mentioned. New York Times said about Hyman's career, "With young contemporaries like James Earl Jones, Sidney Poitier, Harry Belafonte, and Morgan Freeman, Mr. Hyman was a major influence in developing black theater in America. He appeared in black cast productions on Broadway and in regional theaters and was a founder of the American Shakespeare Festival in Stamford, Connecticut, which began in 1955 and often cast black actors in customarily white leading roles. He was inducted into the Theater Hall of Fame in New York in 1997, skirting racial barriers that had long limited the opportunities for black actors in America. Mr. Hyman lived and worked in England for 5 years and spent parts of each year in Scandinavia, mostly in Norway, for more than half a century. He became fluent in Norwegian and Danish, spoke passable Swedish, and performed in Oslo, Copenhagen, Stockholm, and plays by Shakespeare, Ibsen, and O'Neill. It used to be that casting black actors in traditionally white roles seemed daring, like marching in the street. And maybe things have gotten better, and maybe they haven't, Mr. Hyman told the New York Times in 1991. But just the fact that people still ask the question, should we or shouldn't we, proves that much hasn't changed.
I would like to know how you all feel about this situation.
We are talking about Lisa Bonet, and the reason why we are even talking about Miss Lisa Bonet is because I've always been interested in her. I have always thought she was really pretty when I first seen her on the Cosby Show. And I've always like really been interested in her, you know, like I liked her eccentric style and how she seemed to be in real life. We don't really know too much about her. She seems to stay pretty private. I guess the only thing we really know about her is her marriages. We know she was married to Lenny Kravitz. She has her daughter. We know that she got married to that other man. What is his name? Jason Momoa, if I'm saying that correctly. We know they married him. She married him and she had some children. But besides that, we don't really know a whole lot about Lisa Bonet, and I think that's definitely where my research came in. And I always been like, who is her mom and her dad? Because they say that her mom is white and her dad was black, but we never really seen pictures of them. Then come to find out she got some half siblings. Like, well, she got some half siblings. And so yeah, when I started doing this research, I actually found out some interesting things. Like, did you know that her father was an opera singer? Did you know that? I mean, got a nice opera voice too, and most of his music is in German. His opera music, yes, and you can actually find it here over here on YouTube if you wanted to listen to his music, but we'll get into that later. And that he has other children, that she got other siblings that you know, like is into music and some acting and stuff like that. We'll talk about that, show that later. And did you know that her name really should be Lisa Bonet? Bonnie? Bonnie? I don't know how it's pronounced, but doing my research, I said, wait a minute, where's this Bonet coming from? This B-O-N-E-T, because I'm actually seeing something a little bit different, because her name is Lisa Michelle Bonet, born November 16th, 1967. So at this time, she was 20 years old when this article came out, and she was born in San Francisco, California. It says, a tricky woman who continues to search for her identity. The search is complicated by a number of factors, one of which is the general perception that Lisa Bonet and Denise Huxtable are one and the same. While the Cosby Show creators did indeed pattern Denise after Lisa, there are distinct differences between the flighty average teen character and the real young woman. Unlike Denise, who has a large and loving upper middle class Black New York family with both parents, Lisa was reared in a single parent California home by her mother, Arlene Bonet, a Jewish school teacher. She has not seen her father, who is Black, since she was a baby. Lisa has publicly commented on how she was raised in a little white neighborhood on the wrong side of the tracks. And while Denise Huxtable is a freshman at a Black college, Lisa Bonet is much too busy right now for such mundane activities, though she hopes to one day study astrology at UCLA. Angel Heart, and Angel Heart is the movie that she did where, you know, it looked like she was possessed and it had some blood in it, and this Mickey Rourke was in it. That's the movie that she had to go to, that she was like, did some nudity parts in it, and she had to go to Bill Cosby and be like, what do you think? I want to do this role. And then Bill was like, girl, do your thing. To enjoying immense popularity due to the Cosby Show, both actresses are vegetarians, share a common bond of spirituality, and believe in the powers of daily meditation. Miss Rashad even introduced Lisa to her guru at an ashram, whatever, in upstate New York. And more recently, Lisa traveled to India, where she visited an ashrami, whatever. Said Bill Cosby is not into gurus, but he says about his talented TV daughter, the most important thing is that she has talent. He says the next important thing is that she works more often than most kids with her potential. The next most important thing is that she is studying. So Lisa should be, within the next 2 years, a Black American woman loaded with creative talent and ready to go. Sought out after by the media, she can be difficult, even nasty, as several journalists have learned. Really? Anyway, Lisa said, this was in 1987 when she was 20 years old. Now, when did she get on the Cosby Show? She got on the Cosby Show in 80. No, that was a different world. She got on the Cosby Show in 1984. So just 3 years early. So she was 17 when she got on the Cosby Show, because she did that from 84 to 92. Okay. Now this, she said, look, I'm flabbergasted by all the attention being devoted to her beauty. For when she was a youngster, she considered herself hideous and did not have a single date throughout high school. We was like, really, bitch? Really? Who knew? Who knew? And then she also admits that she did indeed suffer an identity crisis because she is the offspring of an interracial marriage. I have absolutely no idea where I belong in life. I mean, position and in school. I don't know. Growing up is so hard. I don't know. Growing up is so hard. It was really weird, she continues, because like, you know, the black kids will call me Oreo. And I just didn't feel totally at home and accepted with all those, you know, white rich people. Complicating the problem, okay, was the fact that she felt abandoned by her father. I put famous in, by her father, whom she has not seen since she was a toddler, a toddler, you know what I mean? She says her father, who is Black and Cherokee Indian, has tried to contact her in recent years, but she's not sure she wants to see him, okay? As an adolescent, Lisa stopped going to her Jewish synagogue with her mother because she couldn't stand people staring at her, and she felt she didn't quite fit in at the public school she attended as a gifted, I said, get out of here, girl, as a gifted student, because most of the kids were from wealthy families. One of the few places Lisa felt comfortable was in acting classes. After doing a few commercials and an episode of Sing Elsewhere, she auditioned for the Cosby Show. Marcy Carsey, I heard that name before too. I know she did some other stuff too. A producer for that show In a Different World says she remembers Lisa braces and her lovely off-center taste in clothing, and how she looked very much like the kid they had envisioned as the second eldest daughter for the show. I remember thinking, says Miss Carsey, this is a kid who will not be anything but herself. Father Cosby says that the most damaging thing that will happen to Lisa will be if Caucasian American producers don't use her as a Black American female. Here. And this is called Lisa Bonet Wild Child. This was coming from the Washington Post, dated for March 11th, 1987. It said, like most 16-year-old girls, Lisa Bonet was mad at her mother. We're trying to tell you what had happened. She was mad at her mom. Matter of fact, where's her mom at? Let's bring Lisa mom up here. Lisa was mad at her mama. She was not happy about what her mama had. What had happened? What happened? Like most 16-year-old girls, Lisa Bonet was mad at her mother, yet while other rebels fumed as they tested the limits of their mother credit cards, Bonet fumed as she sat in a cramped audition room. The Cosby Show producers' top 3 choices for each of the 4 Huxtable children were waiting for the big decision. One by one, the 12 young actors met with the directors and the producers, then with the writers, then with Bill Cosby, and finally with the network people. Then they waited some more. She'll never get it, purred one aspiring Denise Huxtable, pointing to Bonet, because she has braces. My braces hadn't even crossed my mind, Bonet recalls, shaking her head. And when she said that, I was like, I should just go home now. But she didn't. After all, there was that tiff with mom. And when director Jay Sandrich, I guess so, they just moved the W and put an R. Sandrich finally gave her the good news. The days Bonet followed the other new cast members down a long, long hall to meet with Cosby. I just remember Bill looking at me and saying, I love your braces. But the sweetest moment came when she rushed to to a phone to call mom with the news. I was like, Mom. She was like, what? Like, well, I just called to tell you that I got the Cosby Show. Bye. I was awful. 3 years later, she can't remember what she had been fuming about as she sprints to her neighborhood dinner in Greenwood Village. Bonet appears remarkably level-headed, wearing an olive green jumpsuit. This is what she had on, and she emerges and the blase. She emerges last of the tape. Then she leans back and considers the wave of publicity that began with her debut on the Cosby Show. Rose with the announcement of her very own spinoff scheduled to premiere in the fall, because remember, this article is coming from 1987, and she started A Different World in 1987 to 1993. So they're talking about she's about to do this right now. The announcement of a very own spinoff scheduled to premiere in the fall, it hadn't even came out yet, and reach a crescendo with the initial X rating given her first film, Angel Heart. You know, the Angel Heart with the blood, and she was possessed, she was nude and stuff. Well, actually, it's so funny that all this controversy is made over this 30-second scene that has now had 10-second cuts, she said. You know, people are going to see it and they're going to go, what is the big deal here? And then she gets off into the movie. I don't want to get off into that because I feel like there are a lot of videos that talk about this movie. There are a lot of videos on what information that you do usually find on Lisa Bonet is going to talk about her relationship with Bill Cosby. This movie that she did, what happened with her and Bill, the reason why, you know, with the show and all of that type of stuff. You're going to talk about that. You're going to hear a lot about her and Lenny Kravitz, her relationships, her marriages, period, her one with Jason, okay, her marriage to him. But how often do we like hear stuff about her family, the mom and the daddy and the siblings? As for Bonet, the suggestion that men might find her attractive leaves her she's just confused. She's just baffled because I don't even know what this word is. I'm not even gonna try. Okay, that's really funny. She insists. It's wild. It's ridiculous. I didn't have a date in high school. No one asked me to the prom, and it's so funny to think that men find me appealing at all. In fact, her high school years appear to have had all the elements of a John Hughes film. Her parents were divorced when she was 13 months old, and she hasn't seen her father since. She was raised in Los Angeles by her Jewish mother, Arlene Bonet, a teacher. I already told you that, in a little white neighborhood on the wrong side of the tracks. She quit going to the temple because she just couldn't stand people staring at her and didn't have much more luck fitting in the wealthy public school she attended under a program for the highly gifted. First, there was the stigma of being labeled gifted. Then there was the problem of not being either black or white. I don't know. It was really weird, Bonet says with a sigh, because, like, you know, the black kids would call me Oreo, and I just didn't feel totally at home and accepted with all of these, you know, which white rich people. I had just a whole identity crisis because I had absolutely no idea where I belonged in life. I mean, in position and in school, I don't know, growing up is so hard. Suddenly she looks even tinier than her 5 feet 2 inches. I was an only kid too. So I really had no one to identify with. And I used to like beg my mom every day to have a kid, another one, but my parents were divorced. Bonet drifted into acting. She drifted into acting not because of any desires to become a star, but simply because acting school was one of the few places where she felt comfortable. Actually, someone sent me to an acting class because I was bored with my life. So a friend knew someone that was giving classes, and he said, "Why don't you come?" So I went. And the people were just so much fun that I went back. I had absolutely, really no interest in being an actor because I was very shy. Bonet was wise enough to ask her mother to move to New York with her for the first year of the Cosby Show. We didn't even know that. Did you know that? Well, you done learned today. The personal and professional adjustments were monumental.
But director Sandrich, you know, Sandrich dropped the W, put the R, come on now, has nothing but praise for Bonet's resilience. It was very difficult. Very difficult. Number one, moving to New York, he says, and taking all of the pressures that this child has been getting, being called one of the most beautiful women in America. Look at that picture. I don't think Lisa's ever really thought of herself in those terms. She still doesn't. This whole business is so weird, she says. The fact that I'm like actually making money, being who I am, when I'm so miserable, being who I was, you know, 3 years prior to all of this, is so wild. Even the creation of the spinoff chronicling whatever Denise Huxtable's antics at college hasn't shaken Bonet's grip on reality. At the end of the last season, she says, clearing her throat. Where am I thinking? Clearing her throat. They just kind of said, Lisa, will you come in here? And I was like going over everything I'd done. You know, what did I do? And they said, well, we like to give you your own show. Did she squeal? Did she run out and buy a Porsche? Did she know it would happen all along? In a voice as childlike as little Cosby co-star Keisha Knight Pulliam, you know, Rudy. Bonet recounts her initial response. I was like, if it doesn't work, can I come back to the show? And they said yes. So when the Cosby Show wraps up shooting this season episode in April, Bonet will pack up and move to Los Angeles to begin work on It's a Different World. The NBC sitcom is slated to premiere in the fall on Thursday night after Cosby. Mira que sientos, mira que nina. Don't y'all remember Thursday nights? Oh, I'm sorry, I just had a little reminisce moment. Good old Thursdays, a little Cosby. And then he come on at 7. Did it stay on for half an hour or an hour? I can't even remember. Was it half an hour shows back then? And then A Different World? I think it was half an hour. Just 30 minutes. And the occasional appearances on next season's Cosby Show, Bonet plans to shuttle from coast to coast. If there's any time left over for breathing, she'll consider other film roles. We'll see. We'll see what it's like, she says, clearing her throat again. I'm better when I work because I get bored easily, unless I'm traveling. If I'm like stuck with nothing to do, then I go crazy. Bonet avoids meat, goes to yoga classes, meditates and travels. A year ago, she asked Rashad to take her to, I told you all about, she had went to India and finds that reflection helps keep everything into perspective. That's what Tina Turner with her numb your hoe. You got to do what you got to do. If you got to numb your hoe, you got to numb your. It's like there is so much more in life than, you know, show business. And you can tell that from Lisa Bonet too. She didn't get wrapped up into the mundane life of celebrityisms. It's like there is so much more in life, you know, than show business, she says, wrinkling her nose. You know, it's only going to last for so long. But, you know, the work that I'm doing, like with my guru and meditation, is forever. You know, I have to wake up with myself tomorrow morning. Come on, girl, you do. And she was saying this at 20. You better stop. I have to wake up in 10 years, you know, and I'm much more interested in working on my soul than my bank account. What? And she said this at 20? 20-year-olds don't say that. 20-year-olds don't say that. Of course, a healthy bank account makes it a lot easier to find the time for soul searching. Amen on that one. You know, if you got the money. Anyway, so her mama. So let's just get into her mama first. Her mama, Miss Arlene Bonet. She was born on February 11th, 1949. They say that she was a school teacher and she was Jewish, Ashkenazi. Am I saying that correctly? And they said something about some Polish German stuff, right? Now, based on my research, she married Lisa Bonet's father They got married in 1963. Now, remember, Lisa Bonet was born in 1967, so they got married in 1963. And based on my research, now she said 13 months. 13 months, her parents were already separated. I see that they got a divorce in 1969. Now, based on what I had said, it said Arlene had married Alan Bonet. That's his name. When you do research, it says his name is Alan Bonet. She married, a black man, and they were in love and all of that type of stuff. But her family, they wasn't feeling that, her sitting up there being with that black man. And that's where it says, a lot of the research says that that's where their marriage kind of fell apart, as because of all the racial stuff or whatever that was going on. So I'm sitting up here researching the mama, right? And I then found this Arlene Joyce Littman, born February 11th, 1940. They said in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's what I have too. They said she died March 3rd, 1988. And then at the bottom, it says her father was Eli Littman, and her mother, you probably can't really see that. It says was Sylvia Ellen Goldvarg or something like that. So I was like, well, then let me look up her mama. Okay. I found her mama's obituary. So this is Lisa Bonet's grandmother. This is Lisa Bonet's mother, Arlene mother, the family that they said that did not like the fact that she was married to Lisa's dad, the black man. So I'm just sitting up here reading the obituary, right? I'm like, okay, Sylvia Littman. Okay, so that must be Arlene's maiden name, Littman, before she became a Bonet. And it said, she passed away April 26, 2016. Then it gets to that. Sylvia Littman is preceded in passing by her beloved husband, Eli, her cherished daughter, Arlene Bonet. And then it mentions her other children. Then it says her grandchildren, Jason Estrella, la la la. Then it gets down to the bottom. I don't know if you can see this name, this Lilokoi, Lilakoi, in parentheses to say Jason Momoa, if I'm saying that correctly. Whatever. Forgive me if I'm saying it wrong. But that's Lisa Bonet's changed name. She changed her name, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was either 1991, 2, 3, something like that. She went and changed her name to Lilokoi Moon. So in her grandmother's obituary, who passed away in 2016, that's what they have in there. Lilokoi, whatever, Jason Momoa Moon, and her grandchildren. And then if you see in the grandchildren, it lists Lola and Wolfie, who are her children by Jason, and then Zoe Kravitz, who is her daughter by Lenny Kravitz. Part that caught my attention, that made me be like, wait a minute, was the Arlene Bonet, her daughter, at the top part. Sylvia is preceded in passing by her beloved husband, Eli Littman, and her cherished daughter, Arlene Bonet. Boney? I was like, why is there a Y? Did they make a mistake? Like, why did they put a Y on there? So Alan Bonet, Boney. And this is Lisa Bonet's father. He was born in 1935, and it says to 2008, but he did not pass away in 2008. He passed away in 2018, and I'll show you that later. But it said Alan Bonet, or Boney, and I'm like, okay, so what is this? And then in that, it says that his father is Samuel Murray Bonet, Boney, and his mother is Mary Myra Orphy, parentheses. I'm assuming that is a maiden name, Bonet. So I said, get out of here. So did the father change into what? So what is going on with the last name? So it's the last name Bonet. I mean, like, are people making mistakes? Because they have that he died in 2008 when he definitely passed away in 2018. Like I said, I'll show y'all that later. So I had to keep searching because I'm like, what is going on with this last name? I'm very confused. And then that's when I came across this, who said Alan Bonet and Boney in parentheses. And then it got on here that he's from Dallas, Texas. Can y'all see the thing that I'm seeing? Yes. It says that he's from Dallas, Texas. His dad in Los Angeles. He was 72 years old, the son of Albert Boney. See, then it gives different names. Then the son of Albert Boney and Mary Myra Bonet. So I said, you know what? This is starting to get a little lot. This is starting to be a little lot. It's confusing. Is she supposed to be Lisa Bonet? This is the part of research that I love. What is going on? What is the last name? Matter of fact, let's put the daddy. I didn't even put the daddy up here. Do y'all even know what the daddy look like? Boom, there go the daddy. Here go Alan Bonet. Look at him. Present Alan Bonet, the musician. Look at the musician. Here he go with his children. Here you go. That ain't Lisa. That is not Lisa. Here go her daddy. This is Mr. Alan Bonet. Born, when did it say he was born? February 13th, the day before Valentine's Day, 1935. This is him, opera singer. This is him with the wife and the, because he got remarried. Because he ended up getting remarried after him and Lisa Bonet's mama divorced in 1969. So here go a picture of that. But, so I had already found the picture. We're going to pop this back up there. But I'm trying to figure out what is his last name. So now I'm interested in now his mama. The mama name was Mary Myra, parentheses, Orphy. So I thought that was a pretty standout name. The fact that it was Mary Myra, M-Y-R-A, and then parentheses, the Orphy thing. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go under the mom and then just research the mom. I think I'm going to be able to really get my information from the mom. So I started looking up Mary Myra, and I had found this little Texas birth certificate. And this Texas birth certificate is I screenshotted it, but it said 1935. So I'm going to try to bring it up a little bit, bring it up. So hopefully you can see this. So I'm looking at this and I notice a Samuel Orphy. Y'all see that? Do y'all see this Samuel Orphy, which is pretty standout, this O-R-P-H-Y. Remember when I told you, remember everything said that Lisa Bonet's father was born the day before Valentine's, 1935, February 13th, 1935. So we have a Samuel Orphy, right? That's the child's name. And then it says something about 101, born February 13th. We keep on going. He's a male. To who? Mary Orphy. Then we keep on going. And then there's no father name. So I said, wait a minute. Samuel Orphy. Now where the hell we get a Samuel? Where's the Samuel? I'm looking for an Alan Orphy, and Alan Bonet, but now assuming that maybe when he got became an opera singer, that's when he changed his name, or took the Samuel off, stopped calling himself Samuel, and then just kept it Alan Bonet. Let me just go over this a little bit, okay? Mary Myra, in 1930, Mary Myra is married to a man named Henry Handy, okay? So if you look on the census report from 1930, you see that she's married, and the head of household is a man named Henry Handy. They already have about 4 children, Hazel, Eloise, Herman, and Mary. Like I said, this is 1930. So Samuel Allen is not even born yet, okay? So she's with Henry. She already got kids. By 1940, she has it as she is divorced and Allen is born, but he's under Samuel, if I'm not mistaken. I think it says Samuel Orphy, or did it say Samuel Handy? So then I was trying to figure out, it said Orphy. It did not even have the Bonet last name. And then she had some other children who I think had an Orphy or a Handy last name. And then you go to, I think you find her death certificate. And on Mary Myra's death certificate, she had her last name still as Handy. She had Mary Myra Orphy Handy, and it had her as widow. So I'm like, so was it a divorce or widow? And did something happen where she cheated on Henry Handy? I don't know. The Bonet family, y'all know the truth on this. Y'all know exactly what really happened on this situation. But when I was going through y'all ancestry thing, I'm just keeping it real. I found it very interesting. And then some of the other kids had Orphe last name, but then I seen later on when they got married and stuff, they had Bonet. So what did the children find out who their father was, and then they decided, we want our daddy's last name, and then they put the Bonet, the Boney, because it's supposed to be Boney, Boney. It's not even supposed to be Bonet. But everybody has Boney with the exception of Alan. Alan is the only one of the siblings who don't have Handy last name, who actually have Bonet last name, or Boney. He's the only one who has the T. So I was thinking maybe when he became an opera singer, which was before he married Lisa Bonet's mother. Let me put this up. Let me put this thing back up, which is before he married Lisa Bonet's mother. Maybe he dropped the Samuel, said, I'm just going to go with Alan, took the Y off, put T. I don't know for what reason, but that was his name. And then by the time he married Lisa Bonet's mom, Arlene, she became Arlene Bonet, Bonet. So then when they had children, Lisa's name became Lisa Bonet, Bonet. So even though I don't have the whole article, you know me, I tried to go in there and read about as much as I can read. So let's go over this right quick. This was a letter to his daughter. It says, the best I can read, it says, in the middle of the night, several years ago, Alan Bonet has spoken to his TV star daughter. He had not spoken to his TV star daughter since she was 13. Now, he's saying 13. Remember, Lisa Bonet said she had not spoken to her father, seen her father since she was a toddler. Him and his mama broke up when she was 13 months. It says Lisa's mom separated when she was something. Her mother took her to Los Angeles. Though Alan stayed in San Francisco, he and Lisa maintained a relationship. This is what he is saying. You know, fathers always have something different to say than the kid. The kids be like, I ain't seen a nigga in forever. And he like, but I've been talking to you. We maintained a relationship. She's like, no, we didn't. No, we didn't. He said they maintained a relationship through frequent weekly phone calls. Oh, okay. And then he says one day they just stopped until Lisa, who starred in the Cosby Show and is now in a different world, surprised her dad early with a call several years later. Surprised her dad at home with a home phone call several years later. She called me at 3 a.m. to ask if I saw her on the Cosby Show and to ask if I had known that she won a People's Choice Award, Alan recalls. He said that the phone call was very friendly. And when I said to her, this is what he said, and this is probably where he messed up at. Your daughter called you out of nowhere. She ain't spoken to your ass in years. Just out of nowhere, she calls you to say, Dad, did you see what I did? My accomplishments, Dad, me. And then this is what he comes back with. He said it was very friendly. And when I asked her to come and meet her little brother and sisters and my new wife, she said, okay, she would, but she never did. And I haven't spoken to her since. She doesn't want to have anything to do with me. I'm really not sure why she feels that. They act like they never know why, don't they? Don't they act like anyway? I'm really not sure why she feels that way. Alan Bonet, 42 at the time, lives with his second wife, Deborah, whom he married, and their 3 children that they had at the time. And then it mentions the children's and stuff like that. You know, that's what fathers be messing up at. If your daughter called you out the clear blue and she said, Daddy, I want to see you, then you talking about, yeah, come meet she don't want to meet the other kids right now. She don't want to meet the other kids. She definitely don't want to see your wife. She has not seen you in years. She's focused on you, father, you, daddy, She want to see you. She want to talk to you. You could have said, let us meet up over lunch, over dinner. Let's meet up at a park, anywhere, just y'all two. And then gradually start talking about the other siblings and your new wife. Gradually, not just out the clear. Yeah, oh yeah, I see everything you did. That was wonderful. So yeah, so you want to meet your other siblings. And it's almost like that's your main focus. And I understand for fathers, sometimes their main thing is, I just want to get everybody back together and have that family that I done sat up here and produced with all my sperm. I want to get all my sperm together. But if you ain't seen some of your sperm in a long time, your sperm may not want to collaborate with the other sperms. Okay? They may not want to see the other sperms. They may just want to be the only sperm in your life at this time. And then meet the other sperms. Okay? Like y'all, because I know somebody else that did that. And they did that. When they did that, yeah, fucked up now. Them fucked up. Because now that y'all don't want to have shit to do with you, because you start bringing up the other kids. You want to see your little brother? No, they don't want to see the brother. They want to see you. They want to talk to you. Anyway, let's go on. Deborah and Alan have other children together, and these children are, it says it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It says 6. It says 5. I don't know. I'm just gonna show you who I found. Because at a certain point I had to stop my research, because y'all know I be doing too much. I can keep on going. So we have this young man who is Colin Bonet. Colin. I don't know. It's Colin. But this is Lisa Bonet's half brother. You can find him on Facebook. And we have Bria. This is an old picture, 2015. We have Bria. Okay. Bria actually has more pictures. Bria is into music. She's a musician. She does her thing. She's very artistic. Love these children. I mean, they feel like, look like they doing their thing. This is Chira. I know I'm not saying that right, but this is her other sister. This is a picture from 2019. Okay. And this is her Facebook profile picture, probably her and her man. I'm not sure. Son, man, I don't know. I'm just throwing some shit out there. But this is her on there. You can find her on Facebook. This is Cayman Allen. You see he got his father's middle name. Cayman, I don't know if I'm saying that right. Alan Bonet. This is a picture of him from 2020. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he just got married. If I'm not mistaken, I think this is the brother who just got married recently. And then we have Khadijah, if I'm saying that correctly. Now, Khadijah is the famous one. Now, if you go look up Lisa Bonet's, you Google search her and you go to her Wikipedia, and it mentions her siblings, her half siblings. This is the only half sibling whose name is highlighted, that you can actually click on her, and she has a Wikipedia page, and she has 15,000 followers. She's very look. If you ask me, Lisa Bonet and her siblings, they all kind of like, eccentric, dressed the same. Who they get that from? Did they get that from their daddy because they don't got the same mama? I just find it really cool that her and her siblings, even being half, but coming from the same daddy, they're all pretty much the same. But the sister makes music. You can actually go on YouTube and find her music. Khadijah, Kadhja Bonet, that he passed away in 2008. A lot of things said that 2008. Some things were saying 2018. But I ended up finding the information on Facebook. So Deborah, remember Deborah, his wife, the wife that she posted this in 2017. There he go right there. He was still alive in 2017, August 2nd, 2017. Not happy about being stuck in a bed for a whole month, because I think they said he died from a heart attack or something like that, but he had been sick for a while. He had been in the hospital for a while, but I still did not have an exact date. And then I wasn't sure, because on one hand, it do look like the father, but they did not put a name. So I'm like, so is this Alan Bonet or is this another black man? I don't want to be giving false information. And when did I say this was August 2nd, 2017? And then Bria, remember the sister Bria that I just showed you the picture? She posted this on November 14th, 2018. She said, my dad, Alan Bonet, joined the ancestors Friday night. Thanks to my sister, Chiara, Sierra, is it C? Chiara, whatever, for posting these. I had never seen some of them. Some of these pictures of the father. Please do not send me your condolences. I'm fine. If you need to send condolences, send them to my family. If you do not know my family, do it with your man. Okay, come on now. They ain't playing games. And then she put pictures of my dad. So that's how I know. So basically, what did we learn from this whole thing? We learned from this research that Lisa Bonet thought she was hideous and ugly. Shocked the shit out of me. I didn't even know. That her mama was Jewish Ashkenazi. Her and her father, Alan Bonet, had been married for just a few years before they got a divorce because her family, you seen Sylvia and Eli and them, they was just not happy with that marriage, okay? We noted that she got 5 or 6, they mentioned another, Aleia, A-L-E-I-A. I don't know if that's a sibling or not. I don't know. I didn't find it. I didn't see it. It could be. We found out about the siblings. We seen the siblings. We found out one of them is supposed to be a famous singer, whatever, the Khadijah, if I said her name right. We found out that Bonet and her siblings are the only B-O-N-E-Ts, that they supposed to be B-O-N-E-Y. If you never seen her father before, you done learned today. You done seen her daddy. If you never seen her mama before, you done learned today. You done seen her mama. You done got more information on them. You done found out that her father, even though you may read across the board that his name is Alan Bonet, that you know that his real name is Samuel. Well, he was born Samuel Allen Orphy. We don't even know if it's Allen. That birth certificate thing didn't have no Allen on there. Did you see an Allen on there? It says Samuel Orphy. So did he just include Allen and then say, I'm dropping the T, dropping the Y and putting the T? Is something going on with the father and Mary? I don't know. Lisa Bonet would have to tell us. Bonet, she's 50 at the time because she's going to be 56 this year. She's 55 right now. She's very much an earth mother. The Bonet household has no television, just one computer, and she never checks her phone in front of her kids. When? Now? Oh, yeah, I guess her little kids now. Because remember, by Jason Momoa, whatever. They were married October 2017. They were separated January 2022, and they have 2 children together. Lola, Laney, whatever. Born July 2007, and then we have Nicole Wolf, if I'm saying that correctly, born December 2008, and then we know that she has Zoe that was born December 88 by Lenny Kravitz. But so I guess you're talking about a little kid. She encouraged them to play on the land, use their imagination. One of the proudest moments as a mom was when someone asked Nicole Wolf, well, what is life for? This is what they said that side. And he said, without missing a beat, to protect Mother Earth, of course, but God also wants to play with Mother Earth. I just thought my work is done. Okay, now have the revelations about Bill Cosby, alleged sexual misconduct, tainted her memory of those years. She looks evenly at me. No, it's exactly as I remember it, she says. But did you have a sense that anything was happening? There was no knowledge on my part about his specific actions, but there was just energy. And that type of sinister shadow energy cannot be concealed. You sensed a darkness, always. And if I had anything more to reveal, then it would have happened a long time ago. That's my nature. The truth will set you free. At the time, Bonet was branded a rebel. Yeah, so she said that she felt some sort of energy. But that makes sense for her to say that now. Like, why would she say that then? You know, she's starting her career. Bill Cosby said, go ahead, do your thing with that angel heart thing. And then why would she say something to mess up her thing? She's in a different world, whatever. But, then plus she a child. But now stuff come out, she think about it. She's sitting back like, well, I didn't technically see none. I didn't have an issue with him. Me and him was cool for the most part. But now once I think about it, there was a little energy going around that was a little weird. It was a little weird stuff. But then she mentioned something about her daughter, I think she said something about Zoe asked her to, like, Mom, do you know anything? Did you hear anything? Did you see anything? And she was like, no, there was nothing. But she said in 2004, she met my Moa, 13 years her junior, at a jazz club in LA. I can't say it was full on from the moment we saw each other, but we have been together from that day that we met. He needed a ride home that night, so Bonet took him, stopping at a cafe along the way for Guinness and grits. In that moment, love came, and it came big. And he did not run as I think a lot of men do. She laughs. He basically picked me up and threw me over his shoulder, caveman style. She liked that. She liked that. Woo, you know, there is a picture of happiness now. Lenny and Jason are friends. This is, you know, when they were still fine. Because this is in 2018 and they got married in 2017. So they had only been a year. They are friends. The kids are all tight. Thanksgivings is a big event at their house. Bonet, two families, they got along fine and all of that stuff, all of that jazz. She said, what's cool about Jason is that alpha male who stands for love and family. And to circle back to my own wounds, having an absent father, then to be fully met by a man of that stature, it's really incredible. That's what she said. Jason embodies a rare form of masculinity. She liked that. In this day and age, he's a leader. He's generous just in terms of charisma, physique, the right use of power, responsibility, and ethic. You can go down the line. I was like, is this the other sister? Right, because this, oh yeah, because she got a different name. She got the Agenine. No, they said it's something with Aaliyah, Aleia. I don't know, but I seen her up there too. So I was thinking that this was the other sister. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, you see the Bonets got their own little family crest thing too. I found that pretty interesting. Wait, what in the hell? Where did it go? That they have their own little family crest thing for the Bonet, Boney, not Bonet, what the father changed his stuff to. But then it said France too, because I told you I seen some things that said New Orleans, whatever. So I found that interesting. Ames Lodge to present, or Amos Lodge, whatever, to present Alan Bonet, Boney. This is Boney. So this is before he even put the T. So he was doing that. Wow. In musical on Saturday, November 9th. So right there, he had the Boney. Okay. This says tenor Alan Bonet, now saying Bonet of Berkeley, I don't know, will perform at 8 p.m. Friday at the Hellman Hall of the San Francisco Conservatory of Music. Remember, I told you that article was in Star, but I couldn't find the actual article. But then I knew it came from Star when I found this. I was trying to get in there. They were trying to sell this thing on eBay for like $25. So that's why I found this I found this on eBay. Just this. Heartache of Lisa Bonet's long lost father. She's spoken to me just once in 7 years. See? Look at that. 67 cents discounted, right? And they're trying to sell this on eBay right now for about $20-some. But what year does it say this was? I don't even know. I don't even see no year. Oh, wait a minute. There is a year. Do it say right there? I think it say October 87. I think that's what it say. And just in case you all may see this picture online, I'm still trying to figure out which one, because this picture comes up as being Lisa Bonet's mama. Which one? Red or black hair? Red hair or black hair? Because I'm thinking it could be the red hair, looking at the eyes or whatever. Matter of fact, let's put the other picture up. Maybe y'all can help out with this. You know, because they stick pictures on social media and then they put people names on it, and then you supposed to like try to figure this out and make sure, are these real? Are these the actual people? Now, which one is the mama? Now, who is that? Now, I don't know. It could be the black hair. But then again, I'm thinking because how the eyes sloop down, that it's the redhead with the big smile. Girl, I don't even know. I have the slightest idea which one. But what I do know for sure is that if you look up Lisa Bonet's mama, and this is for people that will be researching this later on. Hopefully they can use this video as some sort of template or something. This picture right here will come up as Lisa Bonet's mama. This picture will come up as Lisa Bonet's mother. Is that a mama? Is it? I don't know. It looked like they kind of got the same bangs. Could be the same smack. It looked like the same nose. They got the same eyes and the same. Take the test. Take the test. They got the same eye. I don't even know. I don't even know. But this picture pops up. And then in addition to that picture that pops up, do y'all see that at the bottom of this picture, it says, proud mom Arlene thinks the way Lisa dresses is kind of neat. She likes to be different. I said, matter of fact, I think she also said something about her mom, that her mom helped her to find some place. There was an earthquake in 1994 that put Zoe and Lisa out on the streets. We were literally camping out. In 94? When did she get done with A Different World? It says she got done with A Different World in 93. Yep, in 93, and then Cosby up till 92. And they were camping out before finding the ranch where she lives today. Her mother was a huge help, but she died 20 years ago now. Just saying the words still brings tears to Bonet's eyes. She was a good woman. She loved me, she says, her voice breaking. There were professional disappointments too. The few movies she did often didn't succeed, and she seemed to recede from public view, busying herself with a nonprofit, Operation Venus Heart, whatever, helping troubled, incarcerated youth in LA. Did you know that? We visit them in juvie and just listen to them. It was real simple. And at the time, Bonet's love life was unsettled, especially from childhood. When your primary male figure couldn't care less to show up, that can become a theme in your life where you're trying to fill this gap with these different men. Ooh. Chad said, they like it when you go live, and you should go live, and you should go live. I was like, look, I don't know if a sister want to go live. I don't know if a sister feel like it. But I said, you know what? I'm finna go live. Look, I didn't even go swimming. But let me pop this up here. Make sure you follow me on Facebook at Geneva's Closet. We gonna put this up here because I paid for it.
Do you remember this guy? Well, check out these pics. Nothing yet? Well, maybe this will refresh your memory.
I said, man. But I think for a while, say to myself,
You probably don't know his name, but I bet you remember him now. His name is Clayton Prince, and he was born in February of 1965 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He is an actor, writer, producer, and director, best known for his role as Eddie Lakehart, Denise Huxtable's boyfriend, on The Cosby Show in 1986. Clayton said after his role on The Cosby Show, everybody was calling him. He's done the soap opera Ryan's Hope. He's done the musical Hairspray with talk show host Ricky Lake. As a matter of fact, how about we let Clayton explain it? Clayton, let the people know.
That is a scene that changed my world. I was sleeping on somebody's sofa when I did that. I was broke. I had a budget of $7 a day that I was living on. I used to be one of those people that would call you on the phone, selling the Weekly Reader, children's magazines. And when I did the Cosby Show, oh man, that minute, my whole world changed. And Bill, he let me make that whole thing up. If you guys ever look at a rerun, or if you Google it or look it up on YouTube, if you look at Lisa Bonet's face and Bill Cosby's face, you'll see nobody had any clue what I was going to do next. So I was just sitting there on the sofa. I say, it man. It man. It man. The night before, I was thinking of how many things can I do with my neck, and I was trying to think. That was because I knew that was my big shot, and I wasn't going to get another shot. And after I did Cosby, I started getting offers left and right. And so I did Ryan's Hope. I was on Ryan's Hope for a while. I was recurring. And I got a call from my manager saying that John Waters wanted to meet me for the movie Hairspray. And usually an audition takes like 5 minutes tops when you go into the room. John and I talked for about 40 minutes. There are a lot of people who are waiting to meet you. He said, I don't care about them. You're seaweed. I can see it. I know it. You're seaweed. I don't care about them. So now I have a stand-up comedy special that's on Amazon and Tubi. It's called When Life Gives You Lemons. Because I had a whole lot of lemons thrown at me at one point. I think it's pretty safe to say that my special is the most controversial comedy special ever. I have another series that's on Amazon and Tubi called Cream. That's CREAM for the acronym Cash Rules Everything Around Me. That's one way to remember it. But it's a hip hop drama, and I'll leave it at that.
In addition to Clayton writing and producing his own series like The Black Ninja and Cream, he's also played in Dark Justice, The Wayans Brothers, Spin City, and Third Watch, just to name a few. Now let's get into why I'm really making this video. Did you know in 2016, Clayton Prince sued writer, producer, and director Lee Daniels? When I heard that, I said, really, bitch? Yes, because Clayton is saying that Lee Daniels stole his idea of his show, Cream, and turned it into what ended up being Fox's hit TV show, Empire, starring Taraji P. Henson and Terrence Howard. You didn't know? Well, let's get into it.
Court awards full custody. Fox's hit show Empire follows a Philadelphia-born music exec who must decide which offspring will head his record label after he dies of ALS. It's the same idea. Philadelphia-based actor Clayton Prince copyrighted in 2005.
I had specifically that the baby mama is always trying to use the adult children to take 50% of the company, very specific.
In 2008, he pitched the idea at the Greater Philadelphia Film Office, where he met with acclaimed writer, producer, and director Lee Daniels.
He said, oh my God, this is brilliant. Who else knows about this? And I thought that was an odd question.
Prince says the two met for an hour, and this email from the film office confirms the meeting. But after not hearing from Daniels, Prince self-funded a mini version of Cream in 2010. And then 5 years later, he saw his idea, now called Empire, on Fox, with Daniels as the show creator. As a matter of fact, Prince has sued Daniels, Fox, and the Greater Philadelphia Film Office.
All I'm asking for is a day in court for a jury of my peers to say, is this the same or is it not?
But Prince's case has been tossed from a Third Circuit court. Daniels' attorney says the case has been decided and it's over. However, Prince's attorney, Mary Beth Brogan, says the court denied his right to a jury and didn't allow for discovery or expert testimony. They're appealing to the Supreme Court.
Individuals who get copyrights that spent the time, energy, and money to get that copyright, they want to be able to know that that's going to be enforced in the courts.
Prince now carries a 5-stone biblical homage to David and Goliath. He says this is a case of influence over evidence.
Whenever you know that you're right about something, I don't care how many people are up against you, you fight.
Bo Colt now, 69 News.
Unfortunately for Clayton Prince Tanksley, the aspiring producer, the court said that Empire was not based on his idea, not even close. At oral arguments, his attorney tried to point out similarities in the plot, but it didn't go well, and the Third Circuit Court affirmed. As a preliminary matter, we note that the shared premise of the shows, an African-American male record executive, is unprotectable. These characters fit squarely within the class of prototypes to which copyright protection has never extended. The plots in Empire and Cream were based on black record executives with diseases, but little more. In Empire, the protagonist has ALS. In Cream, the main character has herpes. Not the same, the appeals panel said. Random similarities are insufficient to establish substantial similarity, Fisher wrote. After all, both Mozart and Metallica composed in E minor. Here's a little information about Clayton's show Cream, and you decide if there's any similarities. Winston St. James is the founder and owner of Big Baller Records based in Philadelphia. Cream documents the challenges Winston faces as he attempts to run his record label while dealing with a variety of personal and family problems. Cream features numerous prolonged sex scenes and portrays Winston and other characters as highly promiscuous. Throughout the show, Winston, who's played by Clayton, has a number of sexual forays with various characters, including his two assistants, Chantel and Tiffany. Towards the end of the first episode, Winston grabs his groin in obvious pain and instructs an assistant to schedule a doctor's appointment for him. Early in the second episode, Winston learns from his doctor that he has herpes. In this scene, the dialogue between Winston and his doctor is educational for a drama and includes many clinical details about herpes prevention and treatment. Episode 2 concludes with Clayton, out of character, delivering a long public service announcement about sexually transmitted diseases. The company's takeover. Winston's ex-girlfriend Brenda and his father Sammy are introduced in the final scene of the second episode. The audience learns that Winston's younger brother and sister are actually his and Brenda's children. Winston's parents raised the children because of Brenda's past drug abuse. Sammy, now apparently estranged from his ex-wife, and Winston pledges to help Brenda get her children back and vows to take control of Big Baller Records. Sammy and Brenda then have sex and the episode ends. In the third episode, Winston's mother, Nora, gets in a fight with Brenda and suffers a fatal heart attack. At her funeral, the audience learns for the first time that Nora owned 50% of Big Baller Records. Sammy confronts Winston and demands Nora's share of the company, which Winston refuses. Later, Sammy learns that Nora gave her shares to her grandchildren, Winston's children, following another sex scene with Brenda. Sammy schemes to drive a wedge between Winston and his children by revealing the truth about their percentage. In this way, Sammy hopes to gain control of Big Baller Records. After learning that Winston is actually her father, Angelica tells him that she never wants to see him again. The third episode ends with the actress who plays Nora delivering a public service message about the apparent crisis of grandparents raising their grandchildren. Even though experts and reporters thought Clayton had a strong copyright infringement case against Lee Daniels and Fox, the judge threw the case out and never let Clayton have a trial or day in court. Clayton talks about this in detail in his new comedy special that came out in 2023 on Tubi called When Life Gives You Lemons.
I would like to know how you all feel about this situation, and while you are letting me know, could you please?
Have you ever wondered who played Alf? I mean, who was under that costume? Well, that would be Mihai Michu Mazzaros, a 33-inch tall, that's 2 feet 9 inches, 25-pound circus performer and actor. Born in a small village near Budapest, Hungary on October 1st, 1939, but some articles say September 20th he was born. The 7th of 9 siblings, he performed in the circus from the age of 9 until Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey recruited him in 1973. Since I was 9 years old, I am in this circus. I am entertainer. I go all over Europe in circuses. Mazzaros told Daily Breeze in 1986, "You go to circus, you see the smiles and the beauty. But to be in circus means working 2 or 3 shows a day, 5 days a week, with a day off to travel. To come from comedy's country means being owned by that country. It means having your pay sent to Hungary to ensure your return." Vargo, who was friends with a trapeze couple in the 1970s, met Mazzaros one day when he came home and found them and his wife eating mackerel and onions. "I brought a little friend," the trapeze artist told Vargo. "He is the smallest man in the world. Michu was with them standing next to the coffee table. I told him, you are going in 2 years to be a millionaire," Vargo said. Mazzaros never became a millionaire, but he headlined the Ringling Brothers Circus performing an act with poodles who stood taller on their hind legs than him. 14-year-old Michael Jackson at the time became an instant fan. Later, they would make a Pepsi commercial together. But as much as Mazzaros enjoyed entertaining, life in the circus was difficult. A Hungarian government agent followed him to make sure he didn't defect, and the government took most of his money. In 1980, Mazzaros finally defected, along with his Hungarian guard. He gained alien resident status in 1984. He billed his 1986 interview with the Daily Breeze as his first without a circus person or government person listening. Sure, I feel free before, but only now do I really feel free, he said. That same year, he auditioned for the job as Alf, a furry dog-like talking alien from outer space and title of the 1986 to 1990 NBC sitcom comedy. Mazzaros had no lines, but wore the costume for standing and walking scenes in a handful of episodes. Another actor voiced the alien. It was hot, but he loved it, Vargo said. In Europe, he was so popular, they don't call him Mishu. He was Alfie. He was more popular in Europe than here. After 2 years on the show, Mazzaros was let go. The producers had filmed enough full-body scenes of Alf and used a puppet for the rest. He appeared in other productions, playing circus performers in Big Top, Pee-wee, and Warlock, The Armageddon. His other movie credits included playing a butler in Waxworks and George Ramirez in Freaked. He performed stunts in Look Who's Talking. His television credits include H.R. Pufnstuf and Dear John. During his career, he met Harry Winkler, Charlie Sheen, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and the late Los Angeles Mayor Tom Bradley. He was loved by the stars. Mazzaros also was loved in Hawthorne, where a tiny street is named Mishu Lane. The street off Ramona Avenue near Broadway is deemed the shortest street in the city. Mazzaros, who overcame a stroke about 8 years earlier, became a U.S. citizen in 1990, thanking the 6'2" judge who administered the oath. "This is the biggest day of my life," he told the Los Angeles Times. "I'm the happiest man in the world." Sadly, on June 12, 2016, Mazzaros died at Providence Little Company of Mary Medical Center in Torrance, California, after a stroke at his home that left him in a coma for several days. He was 76 years old. In October 2018, his memorial service was held at Dearly Departed Tours and Artifact Museum, where his remains were inured and on public display along with items from his life and career until the museum closed in 2021.
It is. What do you do?
like it?
I sure do.
Good, great. Welcome in the Ringling Brothers Bonham Bailey Circus, the greatest show on earth.
Why is it the greatest show on earth?
This is the best in the world. Best show in the world.
Well, I don't think it was, I never wanted him to be insulting. I always wanted him to be honest. I mean, if he said something inappropriate, okay, it never came from a sense of meanness or just to get a reaction. I think it came from an innocence, which would really help the character. But I think a lot of it had to do with me. He was kind of a gruff character, didn't know any better. I was inspired by the Muppets, and I was inspired by Rolf the dog, which was a great puppet on the Jimmy Dean show, and Jim Henson did. And Rolf the dog was kind of this boisterous, flamboyant, tickling the old ivories. And I kind of liked that character because he was, it was out there, it's kind of like that. So I said, I kind of like this character. I like this persona. And I kind of developed it into Alf. And I think that's where it came from. And I kind of made Alf his own kind of guy to say, why are you wearing that kind of shirt? You look terrible in it. Stripes aren't good for you. You're kind of on the heavy side, And, so it was honesty. It was not, it wasn't calling the guy fat or anything. It was just telling him, shouldn't wear stripes. Anyway, that was my inspiration, I think. And then as we started to get into the show, as we did episodes, it's 2 or 3 episodes or 4 episodes in, I really couldn't do it. And I'm just doing it now. My voice is like, so I needed to find a middle ground for the character. And I got into the higher ranges because also I couldn't play him on that one monotone level. As the script started to get more sophisticated in a way that we didn't want it to be a one joke type of show where just Alf is walking around insulting people or saying funny things. There were things where we had to put emotion into the show, and Alf needed to react emotionally. And you can't be emotional when you're talking like this, you know, it's like you can't. So I found that higher up part of the voice, and, you know, that's it sort of just started to come. It developed through doing it. By 6 or 7 episodes in, I think I got him.
BBC sitcom Alf, acronym for Alien Life Form, premiered in September of 1986 for 4 years until March of 1990. And you remember Alf, the wisecracking space alien from the planet Melmac, who lands in the Tanner's family garage. And then we had the dad Willie, mom Kate, daughter Lynn, and son Brian. Don't you remember Alf used to love eating cats? Yeah, I don't know what that was all about. But anyway, this video was supposed to be about Alf, but we'll get into him in another video because I felt that the man who played as the dad, Willie Tanner, was a little bit more interesting. So, check this out. Many people may know the sitcom star Max Wright as the beloved uptight TV dad Willie Tanner on the hit 80s sitcom Alf. But what many people may not know is that Max Wright didn't even like the show. Born on August 2nd, 1943 in Detroit, Michigan, Max Wright was an actor who made supporting appearances on shows like WKRP in Cincinnati, Buffalo Bill, After MASH, Stephen King's The Stand, Friends, the 1998 HBO miniseries From Earth to the Moon. He had a stage career appearing in the original The Great White Hope, and he appeared on Broadway. In addition, in 1998, he won a Tony Award for his role in Ivanov. But even with that being said, Max Wright said in a 2000 interview with People that Alf was funny and full of invention. His movement was so expressive that once I actually could see the puppet blush, says Max Wright. But the former theater actor despised his role as supporting player to an inanimate object, especially one that came with enormous technical demands and hogged most of the good lines. It was hard work and very grim. By the end of the series' 4-year hitch, I was hugely eager to have it over with, Wright acknowledges. On the last night of filming, there was one take, and Max walked off the set, went to his dressing room, got his bags, went to his car, and disappeared, recalls his co-star Ann, who played as the mom on Alf. Nobody had to say rap, and there was no goodbyes. What followed for Wright was a slump, both professional. I quit a couple of jobs, got fired from a job, he says, and personal. In 1995, he was diagnosed with lymphoma. It was very scary. I was sort of numb about it, says Wright, who underwent chemotherapy and radiation and says that he has been cancer-free for 5 years. After treatment, he appeared in the movie Grumpier Old Men and then worked in theater. It was electrifying, Wright recalls. I came back to life after being on the edge with a tremendous gusto for the things I love. Back on TV as ABC's Norm, Wright lives in Hermosa Beach, California with his wife of 35 years, Linda, 59, and son, Ben, 25. They also have a daughter, Daisy, who's 31. The actor has revised his opinion of Alf. It doesn't matter what I felt or what the days were like, Wright says now. Alf brought people a lot of joy. They adored it. Max's last television role was in the 2005 TV movie Back to Norm, but somewhere before that, things started taking a turn for Max Wright. Because on January 10th, 2000, he was arrested and booked for drunk driving following a non-injury accident in Hollywood. And then in September 2003, he lost his driving privileges in New York State for 6 months following a guilty plea to a drunken driving charge after running into some mailboxes and a traffic sign. But even before that, in April 2001, images from a drug-fueled sex video featuring Max with 2 other men were published in the National Enquirer. And while all of this was going on, Max remained married to his wife at the time of 50 years, Linda, even though they say in 2003, she put him out the house and left him. I'm reading from the National Enquirer dated for April 2001, and it says, mal-mannered Alf star Max Wright has been caught on camera smoking crack and making gay pornography. In some of the most shocking celebrity news photos ever obtained by the Inquirer, scenes from a porn video show Max with two naked men inhaling crack from a makeshift pipe, fondling one of the men and then having sex with the other. His life was so out of control that he didn't care about exposure to AIDS, said a former gay lover of the 57-year-old actor who's now co-starring on the ABC comedy Norm. We would meet twice a week and pick up homeless men, take them home, and pay them $100 for sex. Max had unprotected sex with me and with the homeless guys, and he did drugs with me and the homeless men. Max even agreed to let me film 2 gay sex videos with him. They're both with homeless guys we picked up on the street. The ex-lover said he had a 2-year gay relationship with Wright, who has been married for 35 years. Max and I grew to be close friends, and it got to be a point where he confided in me. Max totally fell apart last year. He was into heavy drinking and heavy drugs. He told me he was worried that the producers of Norm knew Max was turning up drunk and were not happy about it. He was afraid he was going to be fired. Finally, his long-suffering wife Linda ordered him out of the house. Wright moved out, and his life spiraled out of control. He turned his new home into a crack house and partied with male prostitutes while trying not to lose his TV job. Finally, the actor knew he had to change. Now Max is trying to get it together. He's into a 12-step program, has been living in a recovery house, and is trying to get back together with Linda, his wife, said his ex-lover. But at its worst, Max's life was a wreck. He was arrested for drunk driving in the morning when he rear-ended another car on the Los Angeles freeway early last year. If that wasn't bad enough, he was also using male hookers. He had the world by the tail, but let it all slip away because of his demons. In the shocking 3-hour video, Wright joins in the conversation and the 3 men talk about the best way to smoke crack. This stuff is expensive. I like to use the glass pipe, the homeless man says. Max agrees. A pipe is better. The homeless man lights up, inhales deeply, then turns to the mustache man next to him, places his mouth on his, and exchanges the smoke from the makeshift pipe. Then he passes the drug paraphernalia to Max. 1 hour and 8 minutes into the tape, Max begins to stroke the man and has sexual contact with him. The men continue to converse and party. Then at 2 hours and 15 minutes, the homeless man leaves. Max comments to the other man, "He's hot." The actor's ex-lover, who's seen the video, told the Inquirer, "It's sad to see Max that way. He's been totally self-destructive." His wife Linda told him she couldn't take any more. She told him to leave. But Linda's tough love plan worked. Max told me, "I was reduced to tears by the look on her face when she told me to leave. I knew her heart was breaking." He finally vowed to do something about it. Max has been in and out of rehab programs, but he swears this time he's going to make it. Linda told the Inquirer, "I'm proud of Max at the way he's trying to overcome his problems. He's in rehab because his drinking and drugs have become a problem. It's true we're separated, but if Max get his life together, I would take him back." Now Max is determined to make it on his own. He has vowed to me, "I don't want to hurt Linda anymore." Max Wright was described by many as being withered and a pathetic shell. They said he never came out of his house. He wore the same outfit for a few days in a row, and it was just sad to see what happened to him. And then at some point, they were going to reboot the Alf show, but they said bitter Max Wright turned his back on the show's success to indulge in a vice-filled life of casual sex with men and hard drugs, so most likely he would not be coming back to the show. And all of this was happening while remaining married to his wife, Linda. But she sadly died of breast cancer in 2017 after 52 years of marriage. But Max's German male nurse lover, said that he confided in him and told him that Alf was a demotion because he came from the theater. Some say after his wife died, he went to Germany, where Alf remains popular to this day. But they said he still didn't want to talk about the show. And for his final years of life, he was in a committed relationship with the German man. And they say that he appeared to be happy. I don't know. Sadly, on June 26, 2019, at the age of 75, Max Wright died. And I think his son reported that he died from cancer. But this is where it becomes a little interesting because on Wikipedia, it says that he died in Inglewood, New Jersey. But TMZ reported that he died in Hermosa, California. And I think that's why some believe that he actually died in Germany, but that his children did not want this crack addict gay story to follow him. So they kind of gave the story that they wanted to give, that he died at his home and that he was pretty much okay. But some say that he died in Germany. I don't know. Also, remember the guy who played as the son on Alf, Brian Tanner? Well, his name is Benjamin Gregory Hertzberg, born on May 26, 1978 in Los Angeles, California, and multiple members of his family worked in the entertainment industry, and his grandmother worked as his agent. He was raised in Thousand Oaks, California, and began appearing in commercials when he was just an infant. Besides his role on Alf, Gregory has appeared on multiple television shows like Fantastic Max, Pound Puppies, Fantasy Island, The A-Team, The Twilight Zone, Jumping Jack Flash, many more, and he also made several appearances on the television sitcom Punky Brewster. After graduating from school, Gregory enlisted in the U.S. Navy in 2003 and became an aerographer's mate. In 2005, he received an honorable medical discharge, and by 2006, after completing his naval service, Gregory married. Sadly, on June 13, 2024, Gregory and his service dog were found dead inside a car at a Chase Bank parking lot in Peoria, Arizona. He was 46 years old. Pending an investigation of the cause and allowing the family time to mourn, the death was not publicly announced until July 11th. His sister said he had bipolar and sleep disorders and likely died of heat stroke after falling asleep in his car. On September 13, 2024, the medical examiner revealed that Gregory died of both hepatic cirrhosis, with Gregory being revealed to have had a damaged liver and heat exposure. The death was ruled accidental.
I would like to know how you all feel about this situation, and why you are letting me know, could you please?
Did I do that?
Yes, you did, Steve. Yes, you did. I already know you remember Steve Urkel from the heartwarming TV series Family Matters, who was played by Jaleel White. What do we really know about Jaleel White and how he got his role on Family Matters as Steve Urkel? I know that the cast of Family Matters just recently had a reunion in 2023, but I didn't pay attention. But I did find his story to be pretty interesting, so I decided to make this video, so let's get into it. Jaleel Ahmad White was born on November 27th, 1976 in Culver City, California. He is currently 47, going on 48 years old, and he was the only child of his father, Michael White, who they say was a dentist, and his mother, Gail White, a homemaker, who they say later on became his manager. I'm assuming Jaleel already had a lot of personality as a kid that his mom and daddy had already seen, so by the time his preschool teacher said, "You better put this boy in some acting classes," at the age of 3, that's what they did. They put him in some acting classes, and one of his first notable commercial appearances was for Jell-O Pudding Pops alongside Bill Cosby. Jaleel's first television role was a guest appearance on The Jeffersons in 1984. He later auditioned for the role of Rudy Huxtable on The Cosby Show. According to Jaleel, he was cast in the role. The character was originally intended to be male, but was replaced by Keisha Knight Pulliam when Bill Cosby decided to mirror his television family after his real-life family. The following year, he got the role as the son of Flip Wilson and Gladys Knight in Charlie and Company. The series was intended to be like The Cosby Show, but sadly it was canceled in 1986. And then in 1987, he appeared in Good Morning Miss Bliss, and he had a role on Mr. Belvedere. So basically, Jaleel White has some acting experience before he got his role as Steve Urkel, because now I'm about to get into how Family Matters got started. While Jaleel White is out doing his acting thing, the lady who played in Family Matters as Harriet Winslow, Jo Marie Payton, she's doing her acting thing too. She got acting experience under her belt in addition to musicals. Jo Marie's big break came when she was cast as Harriet Winslow, the elevator operator on the ABC sitcom Perfect Strangers in 1987. Her performance was so well received by audiences that she was given her own sitcom Family Matters in 1989. Not only was Jo Marie on Perfect Strangers as Harriet Winslow, But the man who played as her husband on Family Matters, whose real name is Reginald VelJohnson, also made one appearance on Perfect Strangers as her husband named Carl Winslow, and he was a police officer. What I found interesting about VelJohnson acting career is that they say he is known for playing police officers. They said that he played in Ghostbusters in 1984 as a correction officer. Then he played in Crocodile Dundee as a limo driver. And then he played along Tom Hanks in Turner and Hooch in 1989. Then he played as an ambulance driver in Remo Williams' The Adventure Begins in 1985. But his breakthrough role was as Sergeant Al Powell in the 1988 film Die Hard, which later he reprised the character in 1990 in Die Hard 2. They say that Gene Hackman originally was supposed to play that role in Die Hard, but he was unavailable, so the producers decided to give it to a unknown actor. Okay, so now we know that Jo Marie was told by the producers that she was going to get her own spin-off show, and Reginald was supposed to be her husband, so it was supposed to be about Carl and Harriet Winslow, this middle-aged family from Chicago, and about their children, Eddie, Laura, and Judy Winslow. While Family Matters is being made and premiered in 1989, Jaleel White just wanted a toy. This is what he said in an interview. I'm paraphrasing. He said that there was a toy or something that he wanted, and his dad told him, well, then if you want it, you're going to have to work for it. So they find out about this audition. It's supposed to be just a one-time audition for a nerdy next-door neighbor to come and play on Family Matters. So he does his best, and then he gets the role. He was 12 years old. I heard that Steve Urkel made an appearance on season 1, episode 6, but it wasn't until his performance on episode 12 that captivated audiences. Prior to Jaleel White coming on the show playing as Steve Urkel, the ratings for Family Matters wasn't doing so well. But then after Steve Urkel's performance, the ratings shot up, and then the producers decided to fully write Steve Urkel in. Jaleel White said in interviews by the time he got on Family Matters, he felt the tension. He felt the negative energy, which would make sense if producers were already telling Jo Marie that she was going to have her own show. You're going to be the star of this show. Reginald done came on as her husband. And then we had Thelma Hopkins. We already know that she was a known person. Jaleel said that he's pretty sure that producers were telling all of them that you're going to make this amount of money. You're going to be the star of the show. And then things got completely changed around when his character, Steve Urkel, was written in. And then the show's dynamic changed with him mainly being the star of the show, that people may feel a certain type of way. And he's mainly speaking of Jo Marie. He said that they definitely had some conflict and he felt like they did not like him. I read that there was an incident where Jo Marie Payton's contract had just expired and she was reluctant to continue, feeling the show had jumped the shark years prior. Yet she agreed to stay, but left mid-season shortly after near getting into a physical altercation with Jaleel in what would be her last regular episode. In that episode, Jaleel, playing a gangster instead of his usual Urkel, was attempting to insert material that violated broadcast standards and practices. The resulting dispute between Jaleel White and Jo Marie Payton escalated to the point where Darius McCray, you know, the one who played as Eddie Winslow, had to separate the two.
He didn't have the etiquette that maybe I and some others had. There was one time he actually wanted to physically fight me. I was going to go in there and whip his behind.
Jo Marie did tell us during her interview that she didn't have the greatest relationship with Jaleel during that time.
Working with him was a challenge. There were some moments when he was a little difficult, but overall, I have nothing but good memories for him.
Like I said earlier, I totally get some of the adults of the show being a little irritated that a child, especially not as seasoned of actors as they were, ended up getting the starring role of the show, and then the original concept was changed. But how can you be upset at a kid? You know, he was only 12 when he started the show. He didn't know. He wasn't a director, producer, or writer. Like I said, he came on the show because he wanted a toy. So he had no idea about what was going on, the bigger picture as far as the adults and how they were feeling. But then again, when I heard the story about him and Joy Marie getting into a fight, I was like, really? What could have possibly happened? What could she have possibly done to make a boy who was at this time a young man want to fight a woman, fight an adult? Like, there was no respect for the elders there, where you could have just turned the other cheek and walked away. Like, you really walked up on her like you wanted to fight her. I found that kind of interesting. But anyway, Family Matters went on for 9 seasons from 1989 to 1998, but right before their last season, in 1997, Michelle Thomas, the girl who played as Myra Monkhouse, I didn't even know that was her last name, which was Steve Urkel's girlfriend in Family Matters, she was diagnosed with a rare form of stomach cancer in August of 1997. She went through some surgeries, and in December 23rd to be exact, 1998, she passed away. Now, Jaleel White talks about his relationship with Michelle Thomas, and every time he speaks of her, there's a certain emotion that comes over him. He speaks about her being a certain innocence that she had, meaning that she was very sweet and she was a very loving person. He said that he looked up to her as a big sister and that they did not have an intimate relationship. But what I think is that he was very fond of her. I believe that maybe she was his first crush. And no, they did not have a relationship because she was 8 years older than him. I think she was born in 68. And we all know that she had a long relationship with Malcolm Jamal Warner, who played as Theo on The Cosby Show. Nevertheless, I think a combination of Michelle passing away and Family Matters coming to an end, all in 1998, was a lot for Jaleel. He was only 21. From 1999 to 2000, Jaleel played in Grown Ups, and he was the first American actor to be the voice for the popular Sega video game character Sonic the Hedgehog and Sonic's siblings Sonia and Manic. During this time, Jaleel did have some other acting appearances here and there, but he was never able to get that starring role like he did as Steve Urkel in Family Matters, and he was kind of going through a lot. Because for him, he said when he was on Family Matters playing Steve Urkel, that was a lot for him. Playing that role of a nerd, which was so far removed from the person that he really was. Plus, he said playing Steve Urkel's voice kind of messed up his voice. I'm sure Jaleel looked forward to playing Stefan on Family Matters because that allowed him to kind of put some of who he really was into his role. But his confidence was a little bit all over the place. I mean, after playing that role and then you're trying to get back in television and everyone is kind of looking at you as a one-hit wonder and not wanting to give you an opportunity to play another role, I'm pretty sure he was questioning himself on, so what, am I only good to play a nerdy character, but when I'm trying to play myself, then it's a problem? So he was going through a lot, but he decided to take a hiatus to attend UCLA, and he graduated in 2001 with a degree in film and television. This story is about to take a turn. In about 2012, Jaleel White was on Dancing with the Stars. Well, before that, in 2009, he had a daughter by the name of Samaya, born to a lady named Bridget Hardy, his ex-girlfriend. Well, in 2010, Bridget Hardy came out and said Jaleel White was abusive. Check this out. Dated for March 2012, it says, Jaleel White is a family favorite competing on this season's of Dancing with the Stars, but the former child star's baby mama has made the shocking claim that he's an abusive cheater. White, 35, who played the beloved Steve Urkel on Family Matters, has a 2-year-old daughter named Samaya with Bridget Hardy, and she has never spoken about their allegedly abusive relationship until now. He blew up. She tells Star about a fight the couple had after she confronted Jaleel over evidence of cheating. She says she found on his phone in May 25th, 2010. He hit me across the chest area, she says. Jaleel has vehemently denied any wrongdoing and has never been charged. But Bridget is finally telling her side of the story about what she claims her ex's violent tendencies, intense insecurities, and abusive behavior. On that fateful day, Bridget claims Jaleel followed her into the bathroom. He pushed me into the toilet and it broke. Water went everywhere, through the walls and even to the kitchen downstairs, she says. Bridget alleges that this wasn't the only instance that he lashed out at her. Verbally and emotionally, he's abusive. He told me I'm not working, I have no money, I'm white trash. None of it was true, she says. Their relationship grew so rocky, Bridget claims, that the actor tried to pay her off to leave. He texted me and offered me $200,000 to leave our daughter with him and have me go and start my own family, she tells Star. He basically tried to pay me off. I went home screaming and said, "We're done." Bridget says she took their daughter on a planned trip to Seattle, and when she returned, she was locked out of the house she shared with Jaleel, and all her belongings were in storage. In an interview, Jaleel said that Hardy filed a police report as a ploy to get money out of him in their child custody dispute. When you're doing well in life, certain individuals will try and knock you down, White said in a statement to People. When the individual is also the mother of your only child, it is particularly hurtful. The 35-year-old White, who also hosts the new sci-fi show, Total Blackout, said he has been paying child support and that a judge would not allow him to respond specifically to Hardy's allegations. The allegations made against me back in 2010 have suspiciously resurfaced in time to coincide with my new show on Sci-Fi and Dancing with the Stars. Bridget Hardy has consistently shown a knack for timing throughout our child custody disputes. I guess my most recent successes have been too much for her to stomach. I'm assuming I have not received her votes these past Monday nights. During the pandemic in October of 2020, Jaleel started his own podcast called Ever After with Jaleel White, and it is about stereotypes of child stars. Contrary to popular belief, many young entertainers have transcended the personas that made them famous and continue to thrive today. Hosted by Jaleel White, Ever After is a discussion podcast that takes our audience on a nostalgic journey down memory lane to reveal the hidden lives of child entertainers and the adult lives they lead now. In 2021, being a huge fan of cannabis, Jaleel White developed and started a cannabis line under the name Is Purple, a partnership with 710 Labs, creating variants of a strain called Purple Urkel. It can be found in cannabis shops in California. In April of 2024, Jaleel announced the release of his memoir, Growing Up Urkel, set to hit shelves on November 19th, 2024. When asked about his memoir, Jaleel said, "When I wrote this book, I discovered my purpose in this business. Some people will look at me and be like, oh, he just played Urkel. Is he better?" Or something like that. But to those people, White said, hold on, calm down. Let me back you up. All of us, every last one of us, even the audience, you have a purpose and you gotta figure it out. It's a puzzle for you to figure it out in your life. I started doing these Comic Cons during a period in my life where I was signing all these autographs. Any black man that came up to me, any person that wore glasses around that time were like, people used to call me you, but you gave me so much confidence to feel better about myself. This came to a surprise to the actor. I had no idea, just trying to do physical comedy and having fun on the set, that I was inspiring all of these people out there who felt some kind of way about themselves. I was helping to instill confidence in themselves. Be awkward, be you, don't worry about what other people say. Though White didn't expect to have such an impact, he has since embraced it, which is part of the reason he finally decided to write a memoir. Jaleel is a huge sports fan, particularly football, and this got to be working out perfect for him right now because in May of 2024, he married tech executive and NFL team's owner niece, Nicoletta Rule, if I'm saying her last name correctly. Jaleel's newlywed wife, Rule, is a sports technology business executive and the niece of Dean Spanos, whatever, chairman and managing owner of the Los Angeles Chargers. Rule attended Yale for undergraduate studies as a swimmer and went on to get a business degree from Stanford Graduate School of Business. The couple first met when they were working out at UCLA during the pandemic. They made their relationship public with an Instagram post on New Year's Day of 2022. We've each committed ourselves to loving and helping one another achieve the best possible outcome in anything we set out to do, both personally and professionally, White said. While speaking at the 90s Con 2024 in Daytona Beach, Florida, Jaleel gave several reasons why he doesn't think a Family Matters revival could work. It's the toughest question I've had to answer for a very long time, White 47 said during a panel entitled The Evolution of Jaleel White. But I really study why our show works, and it has nothing to do with me not loving our property. Are you kidding me? I love Family Matters more than any of you guys could ever love Family Matters, he said to the crowd. But, he continued, I also know our strengths and weaknesses, the way a coach would know his lineup. I'm not going to try out on the field for anything less than absolute victory. First, he pointed out, we've lost cast members, referring to actress Michelle Thomas and Rosetta Lenore, who died in 1998 and 2002. Michelle Thomas played Myra, a girlfriend of Steve Urkel's, who in part made Laura Winslow jealous and ultimately end up with Steve. Part of the magic of Family Matters was that it was always prolonged with Steve not getting the girl. Then came alter ego Stefan, and it created this other dynamic. Just during a reboot of Family Matters where Steve is married to Laura, there's no tension there. You'd watch for one episode and discover my voice is a little deeper and get mad at that. If Michelle had been here, I might have given it the old college try to create the triangle of Michelle and Kelly. But without that, I just don't want to do it as a straight Fuller House reboot. It wouldn't work. Did you know in the early 1990s that Jaleel also dated Christine Lakin from the TGIF show Step by Step starring Suzanne Summers? Jaleel definitely has a type.
I would like to know how you all feel about this situation, and while you are letting me know, could you please like and share this video and subscribe to Geneva's Closet if you haven't already done so right here on YouTube. And you can follow me on Facebook at Geneva's Closet, and you can email me at genevascloset22@gmail.com. You all have a fabulous day, and I will talk to you later. Bye.